Right. Hello and welcome to the Wednesday live stream with the Citizen Council. I am Chris Castleman, and here with
Hi.
me is Brandy Martindale.
Hi, guys.
Sorry, you were going to say I am Brandy
I
Martindale.
was totally going to jump in and be like, I'm Brandy Martindale.
There you go. We got to work on our intro. But speaking of introduction, I'll get right to it. We have a guest with us tonight, Sarah Coates. She has been working to help clean up Lakeside, Oregon, some of the camps and things that we were talking about last week. So without further ado, I'll bring her onto the stage. Hi, Sarah. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. I actually saw a video on Facebook yesterday or today of you cleaning up an RV, and that's what prompted me to reach out to you. So I'll show that video real quick if I can find the right buttons to click. And there it is. I don't know, it's kind of tiny, but there's a mini excavator crunching up an old RV, and this RV, we didn't film it when we went and toured the camps in Lakeside, but it was right in the parking lot outside the cemetery. And it looks like somebody had abandoned it, and it had caught fire, and there was a shopping cart sitting in the middle of it and a whole bunch of other garbage. But I'll let Sarah talk to what's going on in that video. What's up?
So that particular RV had actually been there for about a month. It had tagged, I believe, twice. The tag kept getting torn off, and somebody burned it. But we were lucky enough that they caught it on fire the night of one of our fire practices out here in Lakeside. And I don't know if you can see it in the video, but behind the RV, the super tall tree is scorched almost all the way to the top of the tree. It's completely browned. It was that hot. And then it sat there for the past 3 weeks. A burned out shell of an RV. I was contacted by the forestry department on something completely unrelated having to do with the cemetery, and I asked them what they're going to do with it, and they said a person out of Florence usually comes and picks them up for about $1,400, and wow. I made them a deal. I said I will do it for free if you just pay the dump fees. So the dump fees were about $500, so that's what they paid me. All my labor was basically completely donated.
Wow, that's awfully generous of you. I mean, is that something that you could do on a sustainable basis? I mean, how often do these RVs end up in your area?
We get quite a few of them, not to this extent. A lot of them are actually up North Lake Road. If you go up in towards the Elliott, for about the first 3 miles of the Elliott, there's quite a few. They've been burned as well, blown up. It's a mess. But this is a kind of only a once in a while situation with this one. It's not an everyday thing.
Okay, I mean that's good at least. But I see them around town when I'm driving, and you see them. But that's crazy about the fire. So here's like a before and after. Mm-hmm. This is again like right in the parking lot outside the cemetery, and then this is after Sarah and her team donated their time to do that.
I like to say it as if it was never even there to begin with.
Yeah, no, like that's really cool that you did that. I mean, it doesn't look like, but yeah, you can kind of see in the top there, if you look closely, the tree I think is scorched.
Yeah, it's a very tall tree. I'm actually surprised the flames got that high, but it crispied the tree. If it had happened spring, summer, or fall, we would have probably had a really bad situation with forest fires. It gets pretty dry in there. It's very wooded. So we're lucky it happened when it did.
Do they know who started the fire?
No, they don't. They do know who abandoned the RV. Forestry told me that evidently they got a ride to Florence, where they were then trying to get a ride to Washington. But they didn't clarify if they were owners, if they were just had it, or if nobody knew who caught it on fire. That's as much of the story as I got.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You're getting some love from the people watching online.
Okay.
Shirley says, Sarah is awesome. Thank you for all you do. Lakeside can.
She would
I've seen
know.
that actually a lot lately.
Yeah,
What's
I've
that?
worked with her before in the past. We've done both private citizens, garbage cleanups for there in the camps. I did a really big one this last fall with the Job Corps kids in the forestry. There's about 50 of us. And I drove my Jeep up and down the railroad tracks, hauling out debris, about 50 yards worth from a homeless camp back there in the cemetery. And it's all volunteer time.
What? Well, I'll let Brandy ask you some questions. I'm hogging you. So, Brandy, do you have anything? I'm sure you've got a million questions for Sarah. Put you on the spot.
How long did it take you to complete the cleanup?
That particular RV, it took me about a day and a half.
Okay.
Because we were lucky because it was burned down. There wasn't a lot of debris. I was able to get it out in about 10 yards worth of trash to the dump and 1 load of metal to Shingle House for scrap.
How much does it cost to dump that 10 yards or so?
So they usually charge me. I take it to Beaver Hill and up towards Bandon. It's $110 a yard ton. This particular trailer costed me right around $485 to take to the dump. And like I said, I got $500 for doing it. It covers the dump fee. I had spent about $110 in settling and oxygen I have to torch cut the frames to make them into sizable pieces. It did have a full septic tank and gray water tank. So there was a hazmat disposal. And when we were done, we actually had to scrape and remove about 2 inches of the ground and haul it away because the septic tank had leaked on the ground and it was quite foul. Altogether, this particular RV, if it was like a regular paying customer, it would have been about $2,500 with my labor and everything into it.
25?
Mm-hmm.
So that's about, it costs the taxpayers about $3,000 to have a vehicle towed.
Pretty much,
don't
yeah.
know if is that $3,000 the same no matter what kind of vehicle it is?
It's about the same. I'm a little different because I don't think they should be towed away. That leaves chances for them to be out in the public again. So we love nothing more than to go in and just destroy them, and then they can't be back out on the streets again. I like to tell people it lets my boys work out their aggravations because they can just crunch things up, get their anger out. But it's ridiculous for prices, regardless if it's a towing company. I mean, you can get lucky and find somebody that will, I'll remove it for the frame. I can turn the frame into a trailer or something, but it's very expensive.
If someone has more than one trailer on their property that they need torn up, do you do package deals or anything like that?
We could. I have torn down everything. I've destroyed hoarded houses and condemned houses. The more work I get into it, I can do a better deal on labor. If I had 2 or 3 of those, I could probably bust them out in like 3 days, so it'd be $3,500 to maybe $4,000, depending on the dump fee. And a lot of the times when you come across these, like I said, this one's special because it was burnt. There was no trash, but you come across these and they are full of garbage and drug paraphernalia, human excrement. It's nasty, some of these things. So it just depends on the situation. This one was lucky because it was hollow. There wasn't a lot to it. So
is it better if they are burned first?
Well, I mean, not environmentally, no, but in the scheme of things for weight for hauling them to the dump, there's less to haul to the dump. But I don't recommend catching them on fire.
What is the environmental trade-off for burning them versus putting them into the ground?
Well, I mean, it all goes back into our environment. I mean, taking it to a landfill, you still have the insulation and you have all the yuckiness, and it's just going into the ground. The only problem is you probably don't want to burn them on purpose because there's lots of plastic. There's lots of cheap wood materials, and then you have human feces and garbage. And I wouldn't recommend doing it. I'd recommend if you need to get rid of it, just take it to the dump, crunch it, whatever you need to do. But I don't recommend people going around lighting things on fire.
So ecologically, it is better to actually bury it in a place where it
Yeah.
can decompose without affecting groundwater
Yeah,
or anything like that.
disposing of them correctly is the right thing to do always. So, and then like I said, the frames, you don't get much recycling the frames. Shingle House, I think, for a 5-yard trailer full of metal gave us $60. So there's not like there's a lot of money in trying to recycle the metal. This one had no tires. If they had tires, you know, they charge you $20 a tire to dispose of at the dump. It's expenses are ridiculous on these things. So yeah, I don't recommend people going around lighting them on fire.
Right.
Nor are we advocating for that.
No,
Yeah.
I want to ask because I know people have these questions, and I know these are the kind of, when people need a solution, these are the kind of things that they mull over. And so it's good to
Yeah.
get those questions out there.
People get creative. I always say, if you can do it the right way and you have the means, if not, reaching out to your community. There's always people in these communities that could help. I'm sure if this person said, hey, this RV is broken down, I can't get rid of it, somebody in this town would have hauled it. We do have a local tow truck company. I'm sure he would have came and gotten it, but instead they resorted to just leaving it there for vagrants and whoever else to mess with it. So it wasn't ideal at all.
Was that Holy Smokes Towing?
Yes. He's
Right.
our local tow truck guy. He's done good
I like
things.
him.
Yeah, and he's offered in our community to haul these vehicles away for basically free. But for some reason, we can't really cut a deal. Things get weird. But I would like to see something work out where a truck company or something, we can break a contract with here in town to have these vehicles towed at an economic price. It would be really helpful. It'd be helpful for all communities because this isn't a lakeside problem. This is a nationwide problem. So
It was interesting. You said you took it from Lakeside all the way down to Bandon. Well, was there a decision not to take it? Because isn't there one in Reedsport?
there is. Reedsport
Is it a
has
cost difference?
Kinda. Reedsport makes you buy, so Douglas County makes you buy a permit to use your dump trailer as a dump trailer. If you don't have that permit, you have to hand unload your dump trailer. For Beaver Hill, you can just back up and dump it. It's a weird situation. Also, I don't have property in Douglas County like I do in Coos County. So I think there is either a discount or a rule where you have to be from your county. I can't take Coos County to Douglas County or whatever. So it's just easier. They always do good deals for me. I can go in there with my truck full of garbage, just household garbage, and they'll be like $15. So I always think that they do a good job.
All right. Still crazy to drive it all the way down there, but that's the situation, and you gotta love government for making us do that.
Even the transfer site in Coos Bay out there by the DMV, I think, is even more expensive than just driving it straight to the disposal site on Beaver Hill. So it works.
Yeah.
Plus, I can stop and get Dutch Brothers on my way to the dump, which is important. So.
There you go. So give me like a walkthrough. Like, so did someone contact you about this? Did you see it and just step up to the plate? And then from there, like, how did you get involved? Like, because could I just pull up with a mini excavator and do this? You know what I mean? Like, how does that work?
I actually had a meeting with the forestry department and the forestry law enforcement, along with our city maintenance worker and the fire chief, about coming up with a solution on some kind of barricade to prevent people from dumping these vehicles in the cemetery parking lot. And we all met at the cemetery and, ran ideas. And I actually offered. I said, hey, if that guy from Florence can't get you a good deal or he can't get out here fast enough, I can do it for you. The cemetery is kind of a special place to us. It's a very unique cemetery. And we lease it, but there's a little bit of tribal land, and the rest of it's forestry land. It's a very unique situation, and it's a little dear to our hearts out here in Lakeside. So I like to do anything I can to try to keep the area as clean and safe as possible.
Well, you
I'm a sucker.
certainly
I
did it this
volunteered.
time. Yeah, you cleaned this parking lot up for sure. I mean, what a mess. I'm just
Yeah,
looking at these
I
images
tried to leave
again.
it. I tried to leave it better than what it was before I got there. So that's ultimately what I always do in my job. Anytime I have a job, I try to make the place living as nice as possible.
So when you say forestry, is that the county forestry department or the federal?
United States Forest Service. Yep.
Okay.
The actual federal forestry department.
Okay, so outside of that RV, like what's your experience? You said you cleaned up some other camps.
Yes.
I mean, kind of walk us through how does that go? What has worked? What hasn't worked? And as we're talking, I'll play the video from last week, which was kind of we did like a little tour right in outside the cemetery there.
It kind of all started a few years ago. I reached out with the Lakeside ATV riders and said, "Hey, I want to do a project." The cemetery at the time was having garbage bags and stuff left there, and I asked if they would like to orchestrate a cleanup with me. And we had a group of citizens, about 20 of them, and we went out there one day and just walked around picking up garbage on our own. It kind of escalated from there. We've done a couple with forestry service and the sheriff's department, just kind of doing the bare minimum at the cemetery and the little park area across from the cemetery. The biggest one I want to say we did this fall. I was the only civilian that was allowed to participate because I have my own commercial insurance policy. I followed Deputy Oliver up and down the railroad tracks with my Jeep Gladiator and my dump trailer. And I personally hauled out about 50 yards of camp debris.
Wow.
That cleanup had about 50 Job Corps kids, and I'd say another 25 forestry department members, along with deputies, because they were clearing out the people as we were working. So on that particular day, we cleaned up the little sand pull-off area across the highway from Spin Rail. We cleaned up the cemetery and then one of the major camps on the railroad tracks. The only one we couldn't reach was the one that had caught on fire about a year and a half ago, because there was just no vehicle access to it. And then I believe forestry, we took it all to forestry's maintenance shop, and they made the arrangements to have it picked up by dump truck and hauled out to Beaver Hill.
Wow. That's quite an endeavor and an effort.
We've done this about 4 or 5 times. So
in the same area or different areas?
Always the same area, right there in the cemetery, across from the cemetery, and behind the cemetery. I'd say there's probably in the past 5 years, we do it at least once a year, pretty regularly in the summer, and it just within 2 days, it's all just piled back up.
And is this, I mean, the area that I'm filming here, is that part of what you've already cleaned up?
That's a good portion of it. That's the bigger camp, because there are several camps back in there. And as you can see from your video, it's the one that's directly behind the city maintenance shop. It is federally owned. So Lakeside, the city government doesn't have jurisdiction to just go in there and do it. So we rely heavily on volunteers from the community and the forestry department and our deputies. And they're stretched pretty thin. I don't know if you've heard, but the forestry department, since the new administration happened, they've lost about 25 of their employees. So they're stretched even thinner now. So I don't know about how much more is going to be able to get done with so little employees now working for the forestry department.
So you're saying 25, is that right here locally or statewide?
That's our local forestry department.
Wow.
And a lot of those ones that were laid off or lost their jobs, I was told by forestry themselves that a lot of them were licensed wildland firefighters. So we did lose some of our wildland firefighters, along with losing some of our forestry department.
Where were they, right here in Coos County or Lakeside? Like, where were they residing?
Most of these guys are out of the Reedsport office. They go from Reedsport all the way up in here, Hauser. It's a pretty big jurisdiction. They go right up until where BLM starts and the city starts. You had a map, I think, posted somewhere I saw with all the little gray and the red boxes. All the gray and black is what their jurisdiction is out here in Lakeside. It's a good chunk that goes right down the highway.
Wow. That's
How many of those 25 federal workers were probationary workers?
They were all low-level workers, but when you think about you needing the helping hands to get things done, I know they weren't getting too much done before, but now it's going to be a little bit worse with even less people to get in there and do stuff. I did tell them when they're ready to do something to give me the word. I'm sure I can get most of this town to pitch in. We're real big about volunteering out here in Lakeside, so.
Maybe the cuts will be some motivation to I don't want to poo-poo on federal workers too hard, but they're not known for working fast.
No, they're not. The whole barricade thing that brought me into this situation, I asked, how immediate are we talking? Like, I have time now. It'd be like, oh, more maybe towards maybe the end of summer. We have to find the funding. We have to get the approval and the red tape. So yeah, it is a slow process for them. Hence why I think this RV was left to sit there for probably a month or more in the state it was in, just left because they don't have, I don't know if it's just lack of resources or time or a combination of things that they just weren't able to get towed away. And I think that's a lot of the problem is I think there's a lot of red tape in getting them to do anything. So
Brandy brings up a good point, though. If we're always relying on the federal government for things and not doing stuff locally, and then we come into a problem when administrations change, or if we're trying to solve problems differently local than federally. So it's unfortunate, right? We need all the help we can get, but maybe this is a blessing in disguise if we can look at it positively, and like maybe it's going to force us to find a local solution to these problems and find local people to pitch in, like yourself.
I would love to get more people just be like, you know what, we're just going to go out and do it. And I mean, I am a part of the Lakeside government, so to speak, and I'm, I kind of know behind the scenes, and we have a good city council and a city mayor right now who are really working really hard on getting that code enforcement out here and maybe getting more police presence out here. And, the ATV riders of Lakeside have done a lot for the community and getting it cleaned up and pushing things through. So we have lots of very proactive citizens, but we also have a large number of elderly people that can't get out there and do this stuff. So I would love to see more citizens walking up and down sidewalks, picking up garbage, chasing the people out of the cemetery, but it's just not happening, I think.
Sarah, I gotta interject here to just mention that so I was adopted and I was adopted by the adopted son of a 62-year-old man who took care of me for a good portion of my childhood. And he walked along the side of the road with a bag in his pocket and picked up trash up until the day that he could no longer go on walks through the community anymore. And so I do kind of want to point out that for our elderly and retired populations, they can still contribute. There's stuff they can still do. There's community activities that they can still get involved in. Because it is everybody's responsibility to contribute to a functioning society. And so, and I live out here in Fairview, and we have a really high population of retirees. And the big thing is, why don't more people join our volunteer fire department? Well, I don't know about everybody else, but I have a very full-time job plus a side job. I don't have time to volunteer my time the way that 75% of the 50%, whatever, of the residents out here in Fairview do. They're retired. And so I do want to shift a little bit of responsibility for our social welfare onto the people who have time for that.
Yeah. And I agree. I am a full-time business owner who works full-time. I am heavily into the city government out here. I am a widowed single mom, and I go to college full-time and take my kids to practices, and I still have time to go in and do things such as this. So it is a little bit of an excuse. I do know where they're coming from, though. I think a lot of people are frightened, maybe, especially getting into the woods out there. They know the characters that kind of run around. But we do have a lot of good citizens, and a lot of them are older, a lot of them are younger. There's just not enough, I think. There's not enough community participation. It seems to be a couple of groups that get together and kind of try to get things done. And I applaud those groups. They mean a lot to me, and a lot of them I am friends with. But there needs to be more community involvement. I don't have the answer on how to get these people involved. I mean,
Honestly, I kind of agree with Chris that I think these government cuts might be one of the best things to happen to our country, because it is going to force us in some regard to take individual responsibility for the quality of our communities.
yes,
I don't think saying, throwing our hands up and say, well, there's nothing we can do, the government won't fix it. I don't think that's, it's not, the government doesn't fix stuff. The government creates more problems so it can collect more money for itself. And I don't just say that facetiously. Poverty has increased, homelessness has increased. Everything that the government puts money toward to solve increases.
yes.
And so my distrust for the government has grown greatly over the past 10 years. And I think my political views have changed a lot just based on what I've witnessed, what I'm seeing with. So I'm leaving ideology behind and I'm looking at what actually happens in the real world. And I don't think that what we've been trying works.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I've been out here in Lakeside since 2013. My family was on Wildwood Drive outside city limits since the 50s, and I was born and raised in Reedsport. And I have seen such a cultural and social shift away from the community helping themselves, and they are much more reliant on the government, which is a shame.
Could you say a little bit more about that change that you've seen, where you think it's come from, what you think brought it about?
You got the hard questions. I have no idea where it came from. I do feel like growing up, I mean, I'm in my 40s, and the world I grew up in, it was much more, you're out in the community, you did the family picnics, and you helped your neighbors mow their lawns, and your kids were outside playing until dark. And it seems like now it's not like that. If your neighbor needs help, well, that's their problem. Or there's a shift. I don't know when the shift took place, but it does seem, the technology. I see it with my kids. They're glued to it, but there's a lot less neighborly love and pride. I would say pride in our communities, pride for the way our houses look and the way our streets look, and just an overall just lack of caring, I think, is what it is. I mean, if my neighbor said, "Hey, Sarah, can you weed my lawn?" I mean, I've done it. I've done it before, but I don't think if somebody walked up to my kids, I love my kids, but they'd be like, "No, we don't have time for that," or whatever. And it's a generation thing. And I know I didn't raise them that way, but that's just the way they think. I agree. It might have to do with the cell phones and the technology wave. We're just not the same people that we used to be, even 20 years ago.
Wow.
It's
How do we change that?
Answer. Yeah, I'm sure everybody has seen the shift away from, the nice fresh green lawns and the pride and the company picnics into like every man for themselves kind of mentality that's been going on. So.
Well, you're getting some love from online. Someone says, "Sing it loud, Sarah. Volunteers are important. Thank you. We appreciate you." Jeff's just conferring that the Coos Bay transfer station, the one in town, is much more expensive.
It is. It's worth the extra little bit in diesel to take everything to Beaver Hill, even to Reedsport. It's kind of weird how that works. You just go a few more miles and it's half a price.
So that Coos Bay transfer station, that
Mhm.
is a transfer station. So they have to transport the trash to another location.
Yeah, I do believe if I'm correct, I might not be, but you take your garbage there and they load it in a truck and they drive it to, I believe, Beaver Hill.
So that probably is the extra cost.
Probably, yeah.
If you live in Coos Bay and you don't want to drive all the way, or that's probably what it is they're just recouping their costs
Yeah.
for transporting it that additional distance.
And I
for
might be
people
wrong
that are
on that. I honestly have no idea how our waste disposal works, but I'm guessing that's what it is. If they don't take it to Beaver Hill, they're trucking it to wherever. So I do believe there's that cost. It's just cheaper for a few extra gallons of diesel just to drive it all the
Sure.
way up there. Yeah.
But for the average resident of Coos Bay and North Bend who only has a couple of cans of household garbage, you just
Yeah,
drop it off there.
yeah, you can drop it off there. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm hauling out 5 yards or more each and every load, which is about 13 tons or more of trash, garbage on a regular basis. I'm not just taking, my household trash. I'm doing heavy duty loads usually.
Yeah.
So lots of construction debris and stuff like that. So it's worth it for me. The average person is probably not worth going all the way almost abandoned to take your garbage out. So
Yeah. It's interesting talking about the cultural shift. I wonder if forcing the community to clean itself up, saying, listen, we're not going to use federal money for this. We're not going to use tax dollars to clean up this problem. You guys clean it up yourselves. I wonder if that will actually make people more conscientious of the problem. Because right now we have a major issue with enablers. And I
yeah.
wonder if those enablers are challenged to go clean up the messes, if they'll think twice about whether or not having these people living on the streets is such a great idea.
Yeah, I would love to think so. I would love to make everybody accountable for their own actions. If you throw garbage on the ground and you're caught, you pay a littering fee. You're responsible for your behavior. And a lot of these property owners and stuff like this, they should be held accountable for the things that they are doing to our communities.
Mm-hmm. Property owners for sure.
Yeah.
I think it gets tricky when the vast majority of people that are responsible for the most social cost pay nothing into the system and have nothing to take.
Correct. And then in the case of our camps and stuff, the garbage and everything that gets cleaned up, it just doesn't magically disappear. Your tax dollars, my tax dollars, community funding, federal funding, all that is paying for these removals and having the volunteers come in and their time. And it's an expensive process. It's not cheap. I would say one of these big cleanups could go up to almost 15, 20 grand a pop.
Yep. Well, it's something to think about too. When you think about how we're spending our money, a government worker, Coos County government workers actually cost more than the national average. I want to say it's like 70 something dollars an hour. So it doesn't make financial sense for me to pay $76 an hour in my tax money when I could go clean it up myself and not spend anything but my time. And I know how fast I can, and I use say myself as an example, but we all could. If a person can't afford to pay 70 something dollars an hour for a government worker, they should get out there and do it themselves.
Correct.
Because
and bags of trash add up. And, if everybody just took the responsibility and removed a small portion, that small portion is going to, it's going to steamroll into a larger cleanup. And you can do it at hardly any cost if you're just out there doing it yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of us here in Lakeside are doing. We volunteer our time and our supplies. We have gloves and trash bags. We have citizens that volunteer their trailers and their time to haul to the dump. Just so we don't have to get these agencies involved, because if we do get them involved, it's going to take forever to get anything accomplished. So we have taken it upon ourselves a couple of times, just small groups, about 20 of us, and we just go out there for 4 hours and we can remove an entire trailer full on our own. And it takes hardly any time at all, and it doesn't cost anything. And a lot of the times you call the waste disposal and they will let you dump it for free if you tell them what they're doing. My Jeep Club does the same thing. We've done cleanups of Blue Ridge upside Coquille, and the transfer sites and stuff have let us throw everything away for free just for cleaning it up. We've done beach cleanups with Solve and stuff, and it's the same thing. Those garbage fees are waived if you tell them what you're doing. They're more than happy to let you dump it for free since you're out there donating your time.
Cool.
So,
yeah.
You just have to make the arrangements. You got to make those phone calls to get the stuff done. You can't just show up and be like, surprise, here's a bag of garbage from the Elliott. Can I get rid of it for free? But it takes hardly any time to make these phone calls and get these things organized. And I mean, you'll always find somebody that's willing to do it for you. So
we have a disproportionate number of disabled residents, physically disabled. But these people could make those phone calls.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you can't physically do it, and I would encourage everybody to physically push themselves to do as much as they can because it's good for your body. But if you physically are in a wheelchair or severely handicapped or something like that, make the phone calls.
Yeah.
Send the emails.
And that's what you gotta do. And you gotta stay on people. I noticed with a lot of the government agencies, you got to email once to twice every day. You've got to call. You got to make those voicemails, and either they'll eventually get tired of listening to you and they'll answer the phone, or they'll finally take you seriously. But I mean, reporting this stuff is a big step in the right direction. Just making the community aware, I think, is a big portion. Like with Lakeside situation, I don't think people actually in this town realize how big it is. Our particular camp, you can see on Google Maps. It's that large. But when I tell people that, I'm like, these camps, I mean, you can see them from satellite images. They go, I didn't realize it was that big. I thought it was a couple people out there at the cemetery camping. And I'm like, oh no, I think at one point in time we had like 30 people out there. Like, it's a large camp. And we're not talking like they're out there with tents. I've seen them practically build 2-story houses out of very creative things. And they have full ass like little houses out there. Like, it's a nice setup they have going, but there's nobody there to stop them. So it's you gotta report it.
That's crazy. I'm trying to find one of the pictures of the 2-story houses we saw. But yeah, I did read in the news recently, just today, the astronauts that came down from space, when they came out of the space shuttle, they said, we saw the camps in Coos County. They did. They said they saw them from space. Brandy, come on.
Dude, I don't even.
They might have.
We don't know what to believe anymore. Like, honestly,
I know.
Nothing is off the table at this point. Things
Speaking
are
of that,
crazy.
I've saw people online saying that wasn't even real. Like,
I've seen it too.
astronauts.
People think that it was fake. They weren't actually in space. Don't you know?
And you're there. I wasn't in the Gulf.
That was real.
Yeah. Maybe.
Well, although I did like the image of the dolphins swimming next to it. That was nice. I like that. That was pleasant.
I actually watched some of that stuff. It was, shared on Facebook, and it's pretty cool to be able to watch live, like the technology they have to be able to, to some extent have live stream from the shuttle capsule and stuff. I mean, that's crazy.
I'm just happy Elon sent somebody to rescue them. They've been up there for so long. It was kind of ridiculous at this point. So
it was sad.
Yeah,
the whole thing was sad. And
they were up there studying satellite images of encampments in Coos County.
You know what? Nothing surprises me at this point. Literally,
that's funny.
I hope it's not that big. I honestly hope it's not that big. But
that's going to be the new story, right? Reported on Facebook Live.
Yeah, it'll be the next Coos County meme, other than the Olive Garden. So.
Oh gosh, that one. So Rod Schilling had a question. He was wondering how much it costs to, if you can dispose of RVs, how much does it cost to dispose of one of the feral people back there? Can you get them out?
Oh,
Can you pick them up with the excavator, like the claw, and move them? You know,
I was told
I
10
think that'll
grand,
get
but
you
that
probably
seems
10 to
like a low
25
price.
if you do that.
10 to
But
25. There you go.
and I mean, I do have sympathy for these people, but like I like to say, the people that we have out there, they're not down on your luck families with children who have lost their jobs and their homes. All these people that are running around out here and making these messes, they're mentally ill or they have an addiction problem. It's not like a good homeless person that you would think. I mean,
They
there's
have
not.
major behavioral problems.
Yeah, and I mean, I haven't seen it, but I mean, I do know that they can be dangerous and it's
I've
unsafe,
seen it.
and people need to realize that this isn't just those poor people. These are people that need certain things to happen. They need medical treatment and psychiatric treatment, and I know Lakeside doesn't have that, and Coos County is very limited on that.
No. Most
And
communities don't have the facilities or the
right.
staffing required to treat the degree
Yeah.
of these because they're so severe, you know.
Yeah, and I mean a lot of it I do believe is drugs, and then you have mentally ill people to begin with taking drugs, and we're talking hard drugs that they have fentanyl and heroin and Lord knows what. We've all seen the evidence with the needles in these cleanups. We remove so many used needles that are just laying on the ground, and you know it's not. I mean, you can be sympathetic, but you also need to understand the type of people you're dealing with out there. Um, like I said, I've never heard of a homeless person running out of the bushes here in Lakeside, anyways, and trying to attack people. I actually had a lady walk up to my trailer while I was doing the RV, and who obviously was from there. And she told me she can't go to work today because she has to do her laundry, and she handed me a pipe wrench and walked off. Good interaction. I'm glad she didn't hit me with it. But they're not your average just down on your luck people. They have some serious health and medical issues, and they're just not getting treated. And Lakeside of all places, without cops and code enforcement, a doctor's office. I mean, we have a church that provides you a warm space, and that's it. They really don't need to be here. They need to be into a larger population where they can receive these services from their communities. We're just not
they
the
have to be taught to adhere to societal norms.
yeah.
They really are feral. Like, I think people think we're trying to be mean when we say that, but these are people who live outside of any kind of social boundaries.
And they
Like,
choose it. They choose
yes,
it. And I believe
yes.
the gentleman from your video said that he's been out there for like 7 years. It's because he's choosing it. He's choosing not to seek that help. And even if we offered the help, they're not going to take it. There's something where they like this lifestyle. They don't mind living this way. So yes, I mean, by definition, they are feral people. They're uncivilized, running around, doing Lord knows what, like a pack of dogs, basically. But it's because they're choosing to live this way.
Well,
And
nothing is asked of them.
yeah,
They have nothing asked of them.
I
They
mean,
have literally zero responsibility for themselves or anything in their lives.
I see it. I usually come to work here at my office here in Lakeside about 6:30 in the morning, and I will see them leaving the post office where they're sleeping for the night. They are walking up and down the streets, pulling the carts. I'm not scared of them, but I can imagine an older population or a younger person who's checking their mail before work could be frightened by these people. They're screaming at themselves. They're talking to poles. They're swinging. It's a frightening situation. And it's turned violent, I believe, in the past. We just haven't had an episode here lately, which we're thankful for. But I mean, yeah, they're choosing to live like animals out here in the woods. But it's everywhere. I mean, it's just not a Lakeside problem. It's an everywhere problem, unfortunately.
So I read the book, The Let Them Theory by Nell Robbins, I think is her name. And there was a part in the book that, for generally speaking, I really liked the book. I think it's a great philosophy, but there was a part of the book where I was like, huh, that's kind of a problem. And it was where she was talking about, you have a family member who needs to hit rock bottom, let them.
Yeah.
If they need to be homeless, let them. They need to be a drug addict, let them.
Yes.
Okay, that is great for the family who wants to wash their hands of a problematic person that they no longer want to deal with.
Right.
But that's where the let me theory comes in. And I feel like public policies right now are depriving us of our ability to let us. Because if a family wants to turn out their drug addict degenerate onto the streets and make it society's problem, then let me not pay my tax money toward it. Let me step back and take my hands off. Let me refuse to make it my problem.
And it is unfortunate because that's exactly what's happening. Our tax dollars are going to these problems. We're all paying. If you pay taxes, even if you don't pay taxes, you pay gas tax and highway tax, whatever. All of our money of the public is going to these things. They're going to places like the Devereaux Center. They are going to our poor police officers who are out here administering Narcan to these people. They're going to these cleanups. They're, our jails, which could be used for, bigger solutions. We're catching and releasing them. We're spending all these funds, and we're putting up the bill. Even if you're not doing it directly, like I did with the RV, your tax dollars are, your business dollars are, your lottery dollars are. And I don't know if people actually realize it's an expensive industry and it's a money-making industry as well.
Yes.
Somebody's out there making money off of it.
Yeah, it will.
Just a little
they
bit.
call it an industry. They call it an industry for a reason.
Yeah.
A homeless
it's just that struck
complex.
me as a yes. It struck me as what Mel was really communicating is, let me make this difficult person someone else's problem. And I don't jive with that. I think that we need to really think about how we are redistributing burdens onto people who shouldn't have to deal with, I deal with my family members, and we have a family member who has struggled with mental health. He has a pretty, what I would describe as a serious mental health condition. The family has gone through a lot of struggle to make sure that this person is housed,
Right.
to make sure that this person doesn't end up on the streets. And for families that don't do that, I don't think it's fair to now turn around and make your family's problem society's problem. Because if we can let them, then we need to let ourselves also say, I'm not paying for it.
Right. And I know that that's a thing. I do know that there's several people who are out in the community living this way. And I do know that their families worry about them and want the contact with them and want them to come home. But these people just don't want to do that. And, the families would love nothing more than to bring these people back into their houses and back into their families and get everything straightened out. But you can't help a person that can't help themselves or don't want to help themselves first. And that's the big problem is these people like being like this. It's very weird to me because I don't understand it. I'd much rather be in a nice dry home with clean things, but they're okay this way, and it kind of boggles my mind because I don't understand the reasoning behind it. Like, why would you want to purposely live in a cemetery? It's kind of confusing.
Because they can do things that are not socially acceptable.
Yeah, and like in the case of Lakeside, we don't have police and we don't have patrols and we don't have code enforcement. So who's going to stop them? When they're stealing stuff out of people's cars and their driveways, there's nobody that's saying, you did that, here's your repercussion, you're now in trouble. It's just not happening. So it's kind of, I like to call Lakeside the Wild Wild West. It's kind of a free-for-all out here because we don't have those services. I am happy that the council is working on getting some more services, but until that happens, we're kind of just stuck to fend for ourselves in a way.
Wow. Yeah, I know there used to be a Lakeside Citizen Patrol sort of thing like they have in Hauser. I was a handyman for one of the people who they drove around in a car in Lakeside, I think, and policed it, self-policed.
It was here It was here when I moved here in 2013. I knew a few of the people that did it. They were volunteers. They had a car. They drove around, reported everything to the police. I have no idea what happened. I know that they sold the car to Hauser, and that was the end of it. There's no more Citizens Patrol or anything like that. I would love to get more people, even if we don't have a set up neighborhood watch. We do have a few people in the community that will walk the streets at night and document the weird activities that go on, because it is weird out here. I would love to get something more like that, just more community neighborhoods watching each other. I think with the community this small, that's kind of what we have to do, is we kind of have to watch each other's backs, watch each other's houses and belongings. I'm happy enough that I have awesome neighbors. I had just yesterday, there was a weirdo in my neighbor's bushes talking to himself, and my other neighbor put it on Facebook, and I'm like, hey, my kid's on their way home from school. Can you please keep an eye out my house? I'm stuck at the cemetery. And my other neighbor came and picked my kid up so that my kid was safe, just in case that person was still there. We have great neighbors out here, and we do have lots of people that look out for each other. We just don't have enough. So
It's a small community, and that's our small communities were never equipped to deal with an influx of mentally ill people from metropolitan areas, and that's what we're dealing with. When they wanted community-based care in lieu of state institutions, what they didn't take into consideration is that these smaller communities that don't have the resources to police behavioral problems would receive an influx of severely mentally ill people. And of course, everyone who's pushing these policies through so they can feel very good about themselves didn't pause to take a good think about what the unintended consequences of their actions might be. They just drove it through as hard as they could.
Correct. And I'm kind of facing that challenge now. I've recently been elected as our planning commission chair out here. And
congratulations.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if I want the job more, but we've been tasked because we haven't been in compliance with the state, because we don't have a camping ordinance, and we haven't had one forever. And so we've been tasked with finding a place to allow temporary overnight camping to come into compliance with the state. And I've been trying very hard, along with other people, to find a solution to get us out of it, even though it'd be breaking some kind of law, because we don't have a place that's not a neighborhood with houses. We don't have, like I said, anybody to enforce it. We don't have a city staff to enforce it. We don't have cops patrolling. We don't have amenities. We don't have the fiscal ability to provide dumpsters and toilets and anything that these people need. But I honestly can't find a way out of it. I've been trying very hard. I just decided to let the community decide on where it should be placed, because it's ultimately their community, and I cannot make that decision without them. But I don't think for little tiny communities of us, I mean, I think we have maybe 800 within city limits and 1,300 total for the entire town. We're not Coos Bay and North Bend. We don't have access to these things or funding. We don't have a city property tax that can fund anything. So
nor should you.
Yeah, I don't think that we should comply with the same regulations that the state has told us we have to, that Portland has to. We're not Portland. We're not Salem. We're not Eugene. We're not Coos Bay, North Bend. We're an itty bitty little town snuggled up against a lake. And
it's wild how out of touch our state leaders are. They're just off in la la land. It's wild.
And I mean,
Can you circle the lake? So that's where they have to camp at the lake, or they have these things called campgrounds. That's an idea. They can camp at the campground.
I get the need, and I'm trying to put it in my head, like, okay, maybe somebody's traveling and they need a place to pull over for the night and take a nap. And then I'm like, but I know that's not what's going to happen. And so does the community. The community is very angry that we're even being asked of this by the state. It's not just Sarah is angry and the planning's angry. It's an angry community trying to still feel safe in their community, but doing what the state tells us we have to do, like any other large community. And we're just not that. And so once again, we're being put in a dilemma out here of, dealing with people that we have no way to deal with and to take care of it. it's very complicated. I just
Well,
keep
good.
repeating to myself, it's not good, it's bad, and I don't know how to make it good. And it's just going to get worse. And if we think the cemetery, and not too long ago, our airport that had homeless people living in it, and the trash, I mean, what's going to happen when we allow them on the streets just to comply with a state mandate that's out of touch, I think.
Well, good for you
It's
for
not good.
thinking outside the box and
I'm
trying to
trying.
do something that
Hey,
makes sense for your community, and
I mean,
talking about it and coming
yeah.
on here and
yes,
voicing
yes.
I mean, I've
ideas.
contacted County Commissioner Drew Farmer, seeing if he can maybe help me make sense of this, because I wasn't even given any guideline. I was just told, here, make this happen. And I'm like, okay. So I had Drew Farmer kind of explain to me. I've reached out to other community leaders, and I've reached out to state officials just to see. I mean, if there is a loophole anywhere that can get us out of it. I mean, I know we're about the same size as Powers, and Powers has a camping ordinance, but I don't think they have a homeless population. I think they have two. And I think when they had their city council meeting to talk about this, one of them actually showed up to protest about it. But they don't have the population that we have because they're out of the way. Powers isn't right on
Right. They're not a
highway thoroughfare.
throughway.
Yeah.
You are on a throughway
Yes.
right from California to, well, not really to Portland, but if you get
It's a
off the
direct
beaten
route.
path, well, if you take the highways over from Portland or Eugene to
Mhm.
get off the I-5, or they're bused here, which we know they're
Oh,
being bused
yeah.
here from not just our major cities, from multiple states.
That's not a secret. I think that most of us have known that they ship them
They
and they
deny
bounce
it.
them around, and they'll bring them here and then we'll take them there, and they just community bouncing. When they become a nuisance, they go to the next community until they become a nuisance there. I think most people know that that's a thing that happens. I also know that when Coos County Jail releases them, sometimes they are brought here. I can't confirm it, but I've heard the stories that the nonviolent crimes and just the people that are talking to themselves or whatever that have been picked up for minor stuff, they're sent out here because in hopes that they will wander off into Douglas County and no longer be a Coos County problem. We've all heard the stories. I like to hope that they're not true, but I highly doubt that they're not true.
I know for a fact that they're true, like confirmed, have
Yeah.
rock solid
It's just the
sources
best of
on that.
society, and the only reason why they're getting bounced is because other communities can't handle them and don't have the
Right.
means to take care of them. So they just become the next town's problem, and it's going up and down the coast. It's going up and down the I-5. It's the main thoroughfares, and we're not a big place. We can't support these populations that are coming in.
No. And it's crazy to take a little community because, us rural communities like to, people like to remind us, people in positions of power like to remind us frequently that we're not self-sustaining. But the little communities that are actually taking care of their own, they immediately just get dumped a bunch more
Mhm.
responsibility for other people that aren't even from their community. And it's
Right.
very unfair to the little rural communities, little rural towns.
I mean, we do have a few of these people who are lakeside natives, and people that have, for whatever reason, were in our community and now live this way within our community. And it seems that there goes the power. PUD has a planned power outage today, so that's why I'm kind of happy with my phone. But we do have the ones that we know are here, and they are local, and they're born and raised here, and we do take care of them as best as we can. But it's the influx of these people and these travelers from the other communities that we just can't support. And like I said, that's why we need many volunteers, because we can't rely on the help coming. I mean, we can't rely on forestry every
No,
month to go
right.
and do that. We can't rely on.
Did we lose her?
I think she froze, but I think she was trying to plug in her phone because she's losing phone battery. But
I had to switch off
she's
my
back.
Wi-Fi. I had to
There
switch
you
off
go.
my Wi-Fi because the
Cool.
power's been cut off.
we covered for you.
Yeah, we had a slide up on Hilltop here this past couple days when it rained really bad. So PUD is disconnecting the power, I think, to go make repairs up there for people. I think we're going to have like 248 people till like, I don't know, 1 a.m. or something tonight. That's not supposed to have power. So I'm
Wow.
lucky. It's my office. Yay.
Well, you've been on the show for an hour. I told you it'd be 15 to 30 minutes.
It's okay.
So I appreciate all of
I
your
don't mind
time. This is
talking.
incredible that you not only offered your time to help crunch up that RV and get it out of there, but now you're spending an hour with the community and engaging and
Yeah,
explaining things to people who have a ton of questions. So I
I
appreciate
like
it. But
coaching. I'm a talker. I'm good.
you're welcome back here anytime. If you
Yeah.
have updates on things, or if you want to film stuff and send it to us, that you're doing work out there in the community. And I actually like to give you a opportunity here, if people want to reach out to you to hire you to help clean up something on their property or anything, how would they get in touch with you? Would they look you up on Facebook or?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook. I have several Facebook profiles. So there's Sarah Coates. There is Lakeside Planning Commissioner Chair Sarah Coates. And there's also my business, which is Coates Construction and Excavation here in Lakeside. Or you can find me in the Jeep clubs. I'm quite active with my Jeeps, and they're hard to miss. I have a big blue jacked up Gladiator with flowers on it. So
Cool.
I stand out a little bit. You can just wave me down, be like, hey. But and then I'd like to give a tip to you as you work on this thing that you're doing, and kudos for bringing light to it. I think it's going to help. I'd like you to take a look into the situation here in Lakeside, up above North Lake. That's BLM property. If you think the cemetery is gross, you should see the stuff that's up there. It's
Wow.
a little dumping ground. There's burned out trailers. There's exploded RVs. It's just really unsafe for probably about the first 3 miles. And I keep mentioning it to
Whoa.
forestry, and it's not getting any light. So if you would like to bring some light to that situation, I think me and the Jeep Club would appreciate it. It's pretty bad. I mean, it's bad everywhere on the Coos County roads, but in my opinion, because I do travel everywhere, up there in the Elliott on North Lake is probably one of the worst places I've seen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll have to go out there. I have so much content just from like our hour we spent the other
Okay.
week out there, and it's a time consuming to edit some of these interviews. I had a 46-minute interview with a lady 2 weeks ago, and that was like, wow. But
And
no,
you
we'll
can even go
definitely
on the
check
other
it
side
out.
of the highway. If you go on the other side of the highway and follow the creek, there's another one up there in the dunes that you guys didn't even see. So they're
Yep,
they're
they told us
everywhere.
that there were more, and we didn't have time.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So I'm even looking into getting a drone, because it'll show a different side of it, and it'll actually be safer for us too, because generally there's not an issue, but even the people at the last encampment told us that there are some people back there that would not have been friendly,
Yeah,
that
you
they're
don't want to
afraid
get
of.
yourself into
So
a situation. There are some bad ones back there. For the most part, they kind of govern themselves. I do know the guy that was kind of running the camp back there died a few years ago, and it's gotten a lot more scary and dangerous since he has passed away.
Oh, wow.
So you just be careful when you're back there and those things. Don't get your guys into a situation where it could be bad. So just be careful. And I don't recommend anybody just to follow you out there and be like, well, if he can do it, I can do it. You got to build a reputation
Right.
with these people. Otherwise, they could become dangerous if confronted. So,
And it depending on what source a person is getting their information about the homeless community, they may be given the impression that these people do just need help.
no.
I've seen them throw bricks through windows. I've seen them throw um my coworkers have been accosted, vehicles have been
Yeah.
destroyed, and we have seen people try to stab, hit,
Mhm.
shoot right there in front of what was
Yeah.
our office up until recently. And so y- That's really, thank you
Right.
for bringing that up, that
Yeah.
we absolutely do not encourage the average person to go in there and,
No.
muck around, like get into
We're
contact
lucky.
with an organization.
We're kind of lucky out here because I think for the most part, the people out here in Lakeside aren't necessarily violent. I mean, because we have citizens that walk their dogs out there and they've done it for years and they have no problem. But we might be an exception. So I don't recommend anybody go out there and start investigating these camps just to get footage or bring it to light. It could be a scary and dangerous situation for people.
For sure.
So
Well, I have
make sure your
North
viewers
Lake
know.
BLM written
Yep.
down on my notepad here, and we will. I'm not too familiar with the area, but we will definitely look into it, or
Just
maybe we'll have you
take a
give us
look
a
into
guided
it.
tour.
I could take you on an epic Jeep adventure. You guys would love it. I love to drive off of
Hey,
trees and through puddles and bounce off rocks, and I could
jeez,
give you an adventure.
there you
Cool.
go. You can give guided tours.
Yeah, there we go.
$100 a seat.
I don't
Well,
know
we've
about
got
that, but
Renee saying we need more citizens like Sarah, and I've only just met you, but I tend to agree. Seriously, with all sincerity, we appreciate you and what you're doing, and it sounds like you've got quite a little fan club that's supporting you out there. So I
Yeah,
wish you
lots
the
of
best.
comments loving you.
this community
Yeah,
is a labor of love for me, and the cemeteries as well. I love this community. I actually ran for mayor recently and only lost by 43 votes, so I was close. But
wow.
I love this community and I love the people in this community, and I just want this community to be safe and clean, which is the bottom line of it all. Just trying to keep everybody safe out here.
Well,
That's all we
very
can
cool.
make
Make
Do
it
you
it
the
have
do.
any
best it can be.
Yeah.
any final words? We're gonna the rest of the show. We're gonna show some an interview with one of the people back there. So it. But yeah, I appreciate. I don't know. Do
We're
you
all
have
good.
anything?
No,
All right.
I think we're good, and I've talked way too much. And if you need anything else from me, get a hold of me. And if not, I'll update you if I have anything else from forestry happen out here, or if I ever find a date for when those barricades are going to be put in, which is exciting. So
Cool.
I'll let you know.
Very cool.
Okay, we'll
Thank
stay
For
in
you,
sure.
Sarah. It
touch.
was nice
Stay
to
in
meet you.
touch.
Thank you. Bye.
That was so cool.
Yeah, what a
I'm
cool
glad I reached
lady.
out to her.
Yeah, she's great.
Um, well, I don't know how much time you have. I have it's like 20 minutes, 23-minute is what I was able to shorten the like 45-minute interview down to with this lady from the camp from like 2 weeks ago. Um, do you want to
Do
go
you
into
do
it
you want to
and
dive into it tonight, or do you want to save it for its own episode? I almost feel like it's worthy of its own episode because there's so much to unpack that, you know,
we could set a
anyway.
time limit to it. I mean, if I played it, it would be just 20 minutes straight, but I kind of think there's a couple stopping points. There's a lot to go through, but I'm weary about punting it because there's a lot of other stuff to talk about that in other areas that's starting to pile up. We've got district elections. If people aren't aware, you have 1 day left to file to run for district elections. That's your like school boards and your
Yes.
airport board and the college board. There's like 100 and some positions available all over the county. But
And
we've
that's,
got 1 day
these
left.
pe these people who, they can't go out and do the other stuff. I feel like there's so many people that have the time to sit on these boards. And from what I'm hearing, the SWAC board members that are up for reelection are unopposed right now. And so, for as mad as everyone is about the fact that they're employing a pedophile, no one's running for the positions to make a change. And so I'm kind of at a loss. Like, what do you tell people?
Well, maybe somebody will change that tomorrow. I
Maybe,
don't know.
okay. It's,
We'll have
you
to
know,
see. I don't want to
I
get ahead of
have to
myself.
like
But
temper my frustrations because for me, driving to Swauk, that's a 40-minute drive one way. Like, there's so many people that live within a 10-minute drive that can be there, that can go to these meetings. I don't know what people need to spark that motivation to get involved.
Well, let's just say I know of 2 people who are watching the show at this moment that plan to file tomorrow.
Okay,
So,
cool. Good.
so
Awesome.
sorry, College Board, but you've got some competition coming your way,
Oh, thank God.
and you
Oh,
deserve
thank God.
every bit of it. So we've got please show the interview, play it,
Okay, play it.
play it. That is
The
why I
people want
tuned
to see it.
in
Okay.
and
Okay.
love this show. So I
We
think
got to
we're gonna
give the
play it.
people what they want. Okay, let's do it.
And people, if it's, this show kind of goes long sometimes, and I am not at all offended if you drop off. This is, at will employment, like at will viewing, as much as you can take it and do what you will with it. But we've got an interview, and it's similar to the one last week where they didn't want their faces shown for obvious reasons. So I'm kind of filming the ground, but I did subtitles. This one I wasn't able to edit the subtitles and make them make sense. So sometimes the words get jumbled because it's AI, and AI is artificial, not perfect. So it's kind of lengthy, and we'll be off to the side. So Brandy, if you if you want to stop it, just like raise your hand and let me know. But
Okay.
it's wide ranging. I edited the only parts that I edited about half of it out, and it's just because some of it got rambly and lengthy. I tried to keep as much as I could the intention behind the interview, and not try and change or misconstrue what someone was saying. And it's all chronological. I didn't rearrange anything. It's just some sections were repetitive or drawn out or personal. There was a couple it gets pretty personal, but yeah. Anyways, so without further ado, unless you had anything, I'll start playing this.
No, go for it.
All right.
It was mostly empty, other than what was already here, junk-wise.
Okay.
It's pretty close located to the bathrooms. There's water access. We got friends that are just the other side of the cemetery. We got friends that are up at their RV park.
So you fill up these bottles at the bathrooms?
That right now is going to be for washing because I got to do some laundry.
All right.
So
just pour some soap in there and squish it around?
Organic laundry soap and yeah, pretty much.
I've been there, done that.
You got a 10 under here. Seems pretty dry.
For the most part, it condensates pretty good in the tent, but yeah, it's still pretty dry in here still.
All right. Have you grown up? Did you grow up in the area? Or?
No, I grew up in Portland. I moved down here about 12, 13 years ago almost.
Okay. So what do you think about the other people living out here? Are they friendly like you and Travis, guy I just met, or?
Oh, they're friendly. That's not a problem. The problem is when you're not looking, they've all got sticky fingers.
Okay. So they're stealing from you and from other people around here?
It's just a giant cluster of people running around in circles, stealing the same crap from the same people over and over, and then bitching that they're getting stolen from.
Oh,
Wow.
Do they steal anything from in town or just from each other?
Having been an employee down at Dollar General for 7 years, yes. Yes, unequivocally.
Because we're pretty close to town.
They're still allowed in the store 3 months later after they get kicked out. I've been banned for a year. I still don't know why.
So you're saying you get kicked out of the store, but they don't? Huh.
Yeah. And I'm not a person to be stealing or thieving or lying or anything like that because I don't see a point in it. I wasn't raised that way. And, a kid tends to remember that the first time they stole something, they got their fucking fingers broke.
Yeah.
I don't steal.
Look at that patient dog just sitting there.
Deplorable, unhealthy habits that you should never develop.
But some of these
Much
other
like
people
lying.
go into the stores and just take what they want and walk out?
Yep.
Is it because there's no consequences, or do you think the employees let them do it?
It's because they're just that sleight of hand and fast.
Okay, they're skilled at it.
Yeah, I've sat there and watched several of them that I know personally, and I still don't know how they do it.
Huh.
It's an impressive skill, but not one I wish to acquire.
I'm not looking for you to get anybody in trouble, but do you think they're stealing from houses in the area or just the stores?
There's crime rampant all over here in Lakeside.
Man.
I wouldn't pinpoint it to a single person, honestly. Between that and drugs and car theft and freaking just destroying other people's property, and Lakeside's a nice, sleepy, quiet little town, and it's pretty on the surface.
But there's an underworld. Are there a lot of drugs out here?
Yeah.
Easy to get access to them?
Yeah.
Okay. Looks like you stay away from some of that stuff.
Trying really hard. A lot of my issues stem from being in a lot of pain, and the pain meds don't do anything other than make me sleep, which is the worst thing it can do. Because it keeps me still, which makes my muscle pain worse.
Are the street drugs cheaper than
Hell yeah.
pain meds that you can get from a doctor?
It's also cheaper on the grocery bill because you're not hungry.
Jeez.
Jeez.
My $290 in food stamps a month stretches the full month that way. Otherwise, it doesn't. And I have raging blood sugars or incredibly low blood sugars constantly.
Wow. So you're saying the drugs solve two problems at once, the pain and the grocery bill, because you don't eat as much.
I don't eat as much, I lose the weight, and become no longer type 2 diabetic.
Wow.
I just hyperglycemic, so I have to watch that I don't bottom out of my blood sugar, so that just means I just have to eat some protein a couple times a day.
What are the side effects?
It makes my insomnia worse.
Okay. Hard to sleep for sure.
It's crazy he's saying he has all these medical
I'm on the
problems.
autism
Like,
spectrum, and I have
he's
sensory
not eating a
overload
healthy
problems.
diet. He's not sleeping regularly. He's on all these drugs.
Needs to
He's
be on a quiet
definitely
diet,
not
or-
eating properly if his blood sugar is going up and down. The blood sugar roller coaster is caused by
That
diet.
right there is what makes me not sleep.
Type
go
2
to sleep.
Do you
diabetes
find
is a
the street drugs addictive?
self-inflicted disease. Like, it's curable via diet. And so all these problems are did you offer him an opportunity to get help and get out of that place?
I did at the end. I kind of asked, is there anything I can do? And then after I shut off the film, there was me and two other people with me, and we stayed for a couple more minutes and discussed. Ended up getting, it's a her, but got her some. Well, I didn't ask a pronoun, so I have no idea. Or for a birth
her
certificate.
voice might be she might be a smoker or something like that. So, or age or something.
No,
but
she needed, what did
sounds
she
like a
need? She
young
needed
boy.
trash bags. Yeah. She needed trash bags and what else there was another thing, but the guy with us has helped them in the past with stuff, mostly trash bags. He's pretty, like, he doesn't want to give them stuff that enables them. He kind of tries to do it the best he can, that it's like going to help the community, not just them.
Right.
But I don't know if I included in this interview, and we'll continue in a second, but I did talk with her extensively about, like I did with the other guy, about, what sort of shelters have you been in touch with? Are you trying to get into them? Are you, what have you found successful? I know this lady was in the Coalbank Village, the Deborah Center Coalbank Village, for a little while. So yeah, but I would say 19 out of 20 of these people I run into, they're not even gonna get any. They're not gonna. You can offer them all the things in the world, and it's not gonna do anything for them,
Because they're not telling you the truth about why they're out there.
I mean, they'll just flat out, they don't want any help. They'll give you every excuse why your help won't do anything for them, and blah 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 blah. But even if you were to help them, like I had at one point, I was helping two people. They were living in the cab of their truck. It was terrible. It was hoarded. Their truck was hoarded, and they were living, sleeping straight up in their truck. And I had gotten them beds at the gospel mission. I had done all the onboarding for them, worked with the ladies to get them in there. And it was like ready for them to go. Like, it was the moment, and they bailed. And it was like, I mean, I had spent, I don't know, like 6 to 8 hours
Wow.
over the span of a couple days, mostly just talking with them, trying to work through that. Like you've talked about like behavioral issues, mental issues, and
Yeah.
it's like a spider web, or I don't know, spaghetti. You got to like weave through it all and get to like what's actually the problem. And ultimately the problem ended up being, the roadblock was that they were going to be in separate dorms, because there's like a men's dorm,
Quarters.
women's dorm. So
Yeah.
but yeah, no, we did offer help. There's well, you'll see. She'll talk about what's next for her, and she's doing her own thing. So
I feel like there has to be some point where someone rejects the opportunity to get help so that they can become self-sustaining. We got to pull our public money. Like, you
yeah.
don't get to live in a way that makes you sick and then take public money to subsidize your lifestyle. It's unethical, I think. But I roll the clip. Let's keep watching.
Active at all? No.
No, I put it down and walk away. It doesn't bother me.
Do other people find it addictive?
Fuck yeah.
Okay.
I've watched people sell their fucking grandma for it.
Wow.
Not really exaggerating on that either. And I don't understand that, but
If you could generalize, do other people use it for the same kind of pain-related grocery bill thing, or are they just straight up addicted to the high?
it's combinations of both.
Okay.
It really does actually help a lot with pain management. I noticed that there's a lot more females and women in my age that do it for pain management. And a lot of people with ADHD that do it because, well, it's cheaper than the prescription amphetamines to keep you fucking focused and your brain functioning. And
That's not true. ADHD medication is free for people on Medicaid.
What percentage of people out here do you think who live in these camps use drugs?
Close to all of them.
Wow.
There's a couple of lilac bushes I planted back out here too. And I don't know what's going to happen with the giant pot container full of pot.
There was a bunch of stuff that didn't make sense, and I cut it out. But then we were starting to talk about how she's growing potatoes and planting flowers and stuff. And then this was interesting. I guess pot seeds got thrown down the hill.
Seeds that got dumped down the hill. I don't know if it's going to sprout yet or not.
Okay.
If it does, the deer really like it. So
The deer like pot?
they do.
That's true. They do.
So do the raccoons.
I can see the raccoons getting into that.
Rabbits really like it too.
That's
Well,
funny.
I grew up out in the sticks. So there's a lot of critters that like pot.
That's true.
What type of street drugs are available out here?
Damn near everything.
Well, think about it. Fentanyl is made as a pain medication.
I
Fentanyl,
know
meth.
there's fentanyl and methamphetamines. I know there's several people who do heroin when they get here in town, or not that far.
So describe for someone who doesn't know what this is like, what's the difference between meth and fentanyl?
Fentanyl will kill you because it was designed in a lab for human euthanasia.
I don't know
is
if
what
that's
it's
true.
for. It
Why do
suppresses
people
your
take it?
autonomic system.
Why do people take it?
Pretty sure it was developed
they're
as a
fucking-
pain medication, but
Okay.
That is my answer in short.
Is it that meth isn't doing enough for them, so they upgrade?
No. Fentanyl is a downer.
Okay.
It
it was
suppresses your
created
autonomic
in
system, it suppresses your breathing.
1959 by Dr. Paul Jasson as an intravenous surgical analgesic,
I don't know. But yeah, if people want to know the actual factual information on this stuff, you should probably look it up on the internet or talk with somebody who knows what they're talking about. I have no clue what this lady's
You're gonna wanna
credentials
Google
are.
this stuff because
She admits to having used this stuff, and that's kind of her perspective. So it's just an interesting conversation because it's her explaining. I think the big point I was trying to get out of it was like, what does it do for you? What are the benefits? What are the side effects? Not that I'm trying to like promote it. Like, she talks about weight loss. Please, for the love of God, don't take this because you want to lose some weight. I used to be an endurance running coach. I can help you. Not that you have to run long races, but I know nutrition and things like that. Go to like an expert that knows those sort of things. Please don't take meth for weight
Yes,
loss.
I'm a health coach. We could both help you. Don't do drugs.
Jeez. It was actually like a rough part of the interview to like have to hear her talk about that like that was her like decision to like cut costs on groceries. And I don't know if that's even
It's
I
sad.
would, yeah, but without further ado,
Suppresses your brain functions. It suppresses your autonomic system, which is your brainstem functions, your everything that you don't think about that your body functions. It suppresses it, and it will stop you from breathing. It will stop your breathing. It is designed to do that. It is designed to put you into a sleep-like coma state and out, because it's designed for people that want assisted suicide that are going to die from cancer.
So is it more similar to heroin then?
Yeah, and then you got idiots that are cooking it in their bathtub and mixing it with heroin and then shooting it.
oh, lovely.
So why would someone take that? Like generally?
It's
Right?
straight
Some bathtub
Addicted
shit.
to what? Like getting just
Fentanyl is
chilling
very
out?
addictive.
Okay.
Fentanyl is very addictive, and a lot of people that are PTSD or complex PTSD will do it because it makes them not think.
Not think. Okay.
You don't have to, and you know, if you had a really complex fucking traumatizing childhood, sometimes that is the only escape you have, because you are not able or capable of facing what happened to you.
So your mind is haunting
Right.
you, and you need something to chill
Just
you
numb it
and-
out.
Okay, numb out the.
That's a real thing.
And honestly, most people that have addiction issues, that's pretty much what.
And our mental health
Or
care
diagnosed with
systems
ADHD.
actually
So taking meth
thoroughly
is
suck.
The opposite.
It's an upper.
Okay. Describe why someone would take meth. They want to get a lot of work done.
Yeah.
All right.
My issue is as my boyfriend describes it, I have trap squirrel brain. There's like 15 of them that are cracked out there in my head, and none of them can keep track of a damn thing for more than 5 minutes, because I will distract myself. Different tangent. I gotta sit down every morning and I spend an hour. 7 things I gotta do today. And then those 7 things are broken down into the 20-step program that I have to minute detail, and I have to follow it this way or it's not getting fucking done.
Yeah.
And I still am struggling with getting 10 of it done. But as long as I make at least the top 5, it was a good day. And that's how I have to manage it. So
You know, it's worth mentioning, Chris, if you could just pause this for a second. It's really worth pointing out that for some people, when we talked about families taking responsibility for their family members who are struggling, it is definitely worth pointing out that in enough cases, in many cases, probably, the family is the cause of the trauma. A lot of times, someone in the family traumatizes someone, and for young girls, it's usually a sexual trauma. And then many victims grow up in a family who pretends it didn't happen. They sweep it under the rug, they gaslight the victim. And when you grow up in a situation where no one has recognized what happened to you and the predator gets to walk free, get a job at a college where everyone thinks he's just special and great, for example, totally unrelated. But when the predator doesn't really face like the consequences they deserve for destroying someone's childhood, that never leaves the victim. And these families can re-traumatize the victim by refusing to address the abuse. It is super common. And so these people end up adults who have suppressed, they've had to pretend for so long that what happened to them didn't happen, that they do end up with complex PTSD. And it's a trauma, it's absolutely a debilitating disorder. And so I have no doubt that the vast majority of these people do have severe trauma. And that is one of the reasons why it is so important for us to talk about this stuff. We can't just let abuse lie in the shadows. we all have to talk about it. We have to bring it up. We have to make people uncomfortable when it's necessary. Because if we don't bring justice in some form, at least acknowledging what happened to these people was wrong, we're not going to change the not going to break the cycle, right? And so I wanted to point that out because I do think that there's an enormous amount of trauma behind these people who can no longer cope.
Yeah, there's definitely some things that haunt the people out there in the woods,
Yeah,
for sure.
man.
That's
that
how I have to manage
sometimes.
it. So
I get a post-it note out in the morning and I write down the top 3 things I would feel that the day would be a success if I got those 3 things done. And I forget about all the others until I get those 3 important things done.
sometimes just breathing and not stressing is like right there top.
Because I'm like you, I'll have a list of 25 things when I wake up in the morning.
And I wake up, my brain is instantly already, like, I wake up forming full complex paragraphs of what I got to do. I wake up talking.
Yeah.
Already there. And
I feel you on that.
it drives my boyfriend nuts because he hates getting up and he likes silence. And I'm like,
You're like, but we got all
turn
this
the
stuff
stereo
to do.
on over me. We're good. You don't have to listen to this. We're good.
Does meth help someone like that concentrate?
Yeah.
Okay.
It makes you hyper-focus. It makes you actually be able to focus instead of the hyper-focus from the ADHD, where you're zoned totally on that for days.
Again, this is
helps you
not an
focus on the one
endorsement
thing
for
and then
taking meth,
complete the
please,
steps,
people.
And okay, it's off the checklist. Let's go to the next thing.
Well, I mean, if you want to know where it
Over the
leads
counter,
you,
not over the
take a
counter,
look
other
at her background. You want to
prescribed
live like that?
medications, like for
Right.
ADHD that help with that?
There are, but there's also a lot of side effects with them.
Okay.
And it's really hard to medicate somebody that is late in life diagnosis. Like, I was just literally diagnosed with it last year.
Okay.
And it answered a lot of questions, but then it also raised a lot of why didn't anybody ever catch this?
Because
And I was
medication
like,
is not the real solution.
No. Ha! Off,
It can
Mikey.
help, but behavior modification through behavior change,
side
habit
effects
change
does meth have?
techniques is what needs
Or
to
is
happen.
NIE for you at all?
You're more inclined to actually develop MRSA at some point.
I kind of disagree,
That's human
Angela.
stuff.
And I disagree
For some
because
reason,
I
it's something to do with
think
the chemical.
humans have an innate biological need for companionship. And I think human species co-evolved with the canine species. We are bonded on an evolutionary level with dogs. And I don't know that it's fair. I mean, I get where you're coming from because they can't afford food. How can they afford to take care of an animal? But I almost feel like having that connection to a dog specifically is super important for some kind of mental compassion, empathy based brain activity. And I would actually really like to see rehab facilities that let people bring their dog with them. I know it might be kind of like a controversial thing, but I feel like animal companionship is it's like one of the last links to their humanity and connection and like that unconditional love and bonding. I would not be eager to take that away from someone. I get the sentiment, but I'm one of those people that will go buy dog food and give it to homeless people because I want them to be able to feed their dogs. And I feel like cats disagree.
I don't know what
Yeah,
that
but you
means.
can't. I guess there's people that keep their cats on a leash and stuff, but
I've seen it.
I
I've seen
I
homeless
mean,
people with cats. Actually, there was a cat in one of the cabins at the same location.
there is a guy that used to walk through Manhattan in New York City with a cat on his head. Like the cat sits on his head. You guys have probably seen him. If you look him up, he was a real thing. Like I met him. He's everywhere. He's always out there in Midtown and Lower Manhattan. It's messed up. But yeah, I do kind of I know there can be abuse situations where the people can be abusive towards the animals, but and of course those cases need to be the animal needs to be taken from an abusive situation. But Yeah, until the person's going to be responsible to help themselves. I think what's probably going to have to happen is mandatory rehabilitation for these people. I tend to want to say, let people live how they want to live. If people want to be feral bums, fine, but we should not be supporting them with tax money. If they choose to live like that, that's a choice, and we shouldn't be subsidizing it with any public money. I would say maybe beyond healthcare. I kind of am like, all people should have access to healthcare if they get sick. And, like that's where it kind of draw the line. Food stamps, I'm iffy on, but if a person is denying help, if they're saying, no, 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 I'm good, let them, now let me pull my support. So it's again, let them, let me. And so I think if they're not going to be responsible to help themselves, then I don't know if we should take their pets, but maybe not support them at all.
What if we did
But
it
if they're
like if we were equal and when everyone was born on their birth certificate, like you get a punch card when you go to like a sub shop, you get like your 10th sandwich is free. Like you get a
Yeah.
punch card, there's little numbers all around the edges of your birth certificate, and it's for like healthcare and food stamps and like free passes to build a 2-story cabin in the woods. And you get these like they'll punch it. Like so throughout your life you get free shit, but to an extent, and it has to
Maybe,
be
yeah.
equal.
Maybe,
And
yeah.
right? Wouldn't that be true equality? I don't know. I'm
I
crazy.
would like to see a situation where people who want to enter rehab programs and they have this animal that they're strongly bonded to, where they can bring that animal. So when I went through my PTSD recovery, it was effing hell. Like, I have never had a mental health issues. I've been really blessed. I had a really traumatic situation happen, and I did come out of it with PTSD. My dog, like, grounded me in a way because she would be so happy to see me, and I had to take care of her. And she was literally my emotional support animal. And I don't know that it would be beneficial to take their pet away. And so I think having rehab programs available where these people could take their pets with them might actually help convince them to go into a program that would help them learn how to self-sustain.
We can add that on their punch card. You get like 2 neuter and
Yeah.
spays and 4 bags of
Yeah.
dog food in your
I
lifetime
personally think
for
every
free.
American should get one tax deduction. One. You get one dependent deduction. You can use it for a child. You can use it for an adult, who needs care, an adult dependent, or you can use it for an animal. But you
I'm going to
get
use
one.
mine for one of my other personalities. That'll help. Yeah. He's dependent on me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
we better get back to this interview, or we're going to be here till midnight.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but very good. What is it called? A tangent. Good tangent.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I like the community interaction. Like I like people commenting, and then
Yeah.
we can
Yeah.
like discuss it back and forth. Like I like that.
Processing,
So
about
we're
85%
still talking
of
about
the people
drugs
that go
here. We're
on
talking
full
about
time in the emergency room are
fentanyl
methamphetamine users.
and meth. The
I
differences.
don't know if it has something to do with the processing or if the fact that, about 85% of the people that use it habitually are probably homeless. Which that in itself kind of makes you more susceptible to having a staph infection of some sort because, you get cuts, nicks. I had a chunk of metal come flying off of the backside of my axe and took out a chunk of my finger 6 weeks ago.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's
Well, and if
6
you're
weeks.
malnourished and you're dehydrated, you're just a petri
I still
dish
can't take
waiting to grow
the ring
something.
off my finger because it won't go over
All
my knuckle.
swollen.
Yeah. I got MRSA for the first time from my mom because she carries it. But it's like mono. Once you have it, you're a permanent carrier, and it can come back again.
Are you ever afraid, or people out here, do they ever express concern getting these drugs off the street? Like what's in them not being safe because they're not coming from a pharmacy?
A lot of people that I know, if it is something that is questionable as to whether it's safe or if it has been laced with something, they will straight out flush it or dump it in the sand.
Oh, great.
They won't redistribute it, and they won't go back to the same person they got it from.
So MRSA colonization is rare, but it's a real thing where people continue to carry it in their nose or on their skin without showing symptoms.
There's ways to tell if it's been laced
Wow.
with anything by just heating it up.
Okay.
Or you take a little bit of it and mix it with something and you heat it up, and if it changes color, smells like burnt popcorn. The burnt popcorn is laced with fentanyl. If it smells like vinegar,
Never
it's
eat burnt popcorn.
So when I hear people overdosing, how does that occur? Is it because they messed
They're
up how
shooting
much
up.
they took?
They're shooting up, and it could be they didn't sample it first, and it was a lot stronger than they thought it was, and they just mixed too much. And it really does vary from person to person, and the smart drug user would small increments until they know what it does to them, and then do what they would normally do otherwise. But again, that
Crazy.
can catch you flat-footed.
Yeah.
So it's a crapshoot, especially with the fucking fentanyl or shooting up. Just
Totally
Is
nuts.
that Narcan out here, just in case?
I think I've got 3 shots of Narcan, and I got 2 of the nasal things.
Where do you get them from?
Bay Area, first step, second Friday of the month comes out to the food box.
Okay.
Can I go get one? I wanted to get one just to have in my glove compartment because I'm paranoid. But
first aid stuff,
yeah, they're like
get
$40.
all of it because I'd rather people.
I think the library hands them out.
If you're gonna be fucking stupid, at least be safe about it.
So that's right here in Lakeside?
I have a friend who was he works in human
Food box is once a
trafficking,
week, and
and
Bay
he
Area
had
first step, and Adapt, and,
cyanide put on his car door
there's an
handle.
outreach program from Eugene that'll come down once a month as well at the same time.
Jeez.
Yeah,
generally
it's
the second Friday of the month.
it freaks me out.
Sometimes the third.
All the people in the woods out here utilize the once a week thing? And they
Yeah,
get
Food
we all use
bank.
the food box
So
quite
what
heavily.
you get food,
There's
some supplies.
food. We get some dog food or cat food. Hand sanitizer, which comes in handy a lot because we generally use it as a heat source or cooking.
Is it enough food for you?
Jeez.
No, you still have to go to the grocery store.
No, I'll show you what. Here, I just got food box day before yesterday.
This lady
So
was
I gave
really
food
cool
box
about
for
being
2
interviewed.
people.
She just seems like such a perfect candidate for a rehab program. You know what I mean?
That is
Like
my food box minus the dog food and that loaf of bread.
Yes, I think
And
I included that
there
in here. She'll talk
is
about
a can
Coalbank
of fruit,
Village.
a can of beans that's out of it.
Okay.
I got a bag of vegetables. And then I had a bag that had 3 1-pound rolls of hamburger in it. That's the food box for 3 people. It's just a supplement. And that's the size bag of dog food they give.
So they just kind of ask you how many people it's for and give you enough food based on that?
Yeah, it's basically just to supplement what you're already getting with the food stamps. My tent's a disaster. My dogs like to tear it apart. Because they get left here for 20 minutes. That, and I'm trying to get my garbage and crap picked up. I just got some trash bags yesterday, so.
So it's maybe a third of your week for groceries, though? Or
Roughly,
depending on what
probably,
you make?
if I stretched it out, probably about a meal for at least 5 days.
Okay.
That box of pancake mix is super handy. It gets used in a lot of crap, so.
How long does it take you to get there? Is it 5 minutes away?
Well, it's the library there in Lakeside, and I got to take the dogs, and I generally have a wagon with me, so
It's pretty
about
close to all
15,
these camps.
20-minute walk, depending which direction I go.
Mhm.
I go down the tracks. It's straight
Might
into
be a
town,
reason why they're
as I
staying
go
there.
around.
It is.
And you've been using that for about 2 years, you said?
Allegedly.
Yeah. I've been doing the food box thing for probably about 5.
Well,
Jeez.
what's next for you?
Well,
Here we go.
I'm going to be packing up what I can get into my trailer over there, which is 160 pounds. And and the majority of this is being bagged up, if it isn't already, and hauled out to the road so that the water district can pick it up because they'll throw it away for me. And I'm moving into Empire where my boyfriend's at.
Okay, into a house?
Nope. Still going to be homeless.
Okay.
But it's closer to resources that I need to utilize, and it's closer to doctor's appointments because I can't.
There you
take people
go,
with
Mayor of
the,
Coos Bay and North Bend. You wonder why they're in your city.
They don't care. They won't even talk about it.
So you're going to be camping.
I'm
off
so
this
sick of
at
people
somewhere else,
dodging
but-
this and just being like,
Okay.
focus on the
A lot of staff.
positive. While people are having their mailboxes robbed,
Are there
their
more
cars,
services
windows
there?
broken out, being accosted on the
You know what
streets,
services we have here
and
on
they
this
just
side?
don't even
Food box,
don't say a word about it.
Bay Area and Adapt that come out occasionally, and the church at the four-way stop in town is a warming center, but only when it hits below freezing temperatures.
So
It's the only time they open.
so
Jessica, I bet you're
Lakeside
right. I bet
Coos
there's
Bay
something
is-
she
there's
could
better
do to
access
contribute.
services for this.
There's something
You think
she
those services
could
will
give
help
the
you get
community.
out of the situation,
Absolutely.
or
I fucking hope
And,
so.
even if
Okay.
people don't work full time, they can volunteer to clean up. They contact the lady Elizabeth Cho, I think is her name.
Yeah,
Um,
the
but
OBAB,
yeah, there are
Oregon.
plenty
Yeah.
of volunteer organizations where, yeah, you're getting all these benefits from the community. How about you give something back to the community? How about you show up and like put in some effort? So yes, these people maybe they're not mentally equipped to contribute to a private business, but
She
like
did
they
work
can
at
volunteer their
Dollar
time.
Tree.
Yeah,
Yeah, she worked
yeah,
at
you're
Dollar
right. You're
Tree. She
right.
said for a little bit. I don't know what happened there. I have some of it included in here, but she, as part of being in Coalbank Village, she had to volunteer. But it was, you'll hear, mandatory that you volunteered with the Devereaux Center, not like, so it was 8 hours a week you had to volunteer, but it was with the Devereaux Center. You couldn't go and like, well, you mentioned OBAB, Oregon Bay Area Beautification. She
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah,
work
yeah,
8 hours with them and check that box. She had to do it. So that's bullshit. But so she, I don't know. It's a mess, but I don't think that's for another show. We got to
That's
get into that.
disgusting.
And
That's gross.
but yeah, a lot of these people out there are able to hold full length conversations. I mean, these are not crazy thoughts, Rick, to think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
absolutely reasonable. You know, the only caveat I'd say is I don't think we're all experiencing maybe some of the stuff that's going on in their head, but there are people that
Yeah.
are experiencing that and are contributing to society. I would probably argue that maybe I shouldn't say that. It seems to me, based on my little limited experience, that there's probably there's more people, in my opinion, that are contributing to society that have had experiences and I don't know what I'm saying. I I'm like
I will
I
say
I don't
that
want to make an overgeneralization or a statement based on like totally having no knowledge
well,
of the full picture, but it seems to be that these people exist in society and function. I've worked jobs with people that seem just like her and the guy that I met right before her, and we're working together. I ran a restaurant where I would hire people like that. I literally hired homeless people straight off the street and can you work front of house, can you work back of house, whatever, like can you help out, can you
dishwashing.
help.
Yeah.
I mean, I tried to give them actual
Bussing
like
tables.
reasonable jobs and not just like, oh, you're homeless, so you look like a good
Well, you
candidate
meet
to
them where
clean the
they are.
shitter,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
I
and
mean,
and there were
yeah,
times that it did not work and they were totally crazy. But I think it's going to take certain types of people to try. So I don't know. Did that make sense at all?
it does. And we as a society, we as a community need to expect it. We need to expect that you give what you take. This whole idea that we just support people it's failing fast. Like it's creating a resource, right? And so anywhere they're in nature where there's a food source, predators or the organisms will evolve to consume that food source. So right now we are creating a food source. It's a
Yeah.
resource that it's attracting organisms that live off of the resource. And so I think we as a society need to change this idea that like we just take care of people. You got to give something back. I will say though, Chris, when I was really deep in the PTSD stuff, it was bad for maybe 3 or 4 months. I sat at my desk and rage cried angry tears for hours. And like my employer was so graceful with me. I was a mess. Like my brain was legitimately scrambled. And it was a process of holding in abuse and pretending like everything was okay for several years. And once I got out of that situation, my brain snapped. Like,
But you mentioned a good point about the employer, right? And me talking about owning my restaurant and being the type of employer that would be willing to reach
yes,
out to these people and be
yes,
able to deal with that. So maybe the person at Dollar Tree that was her manager or whatever was not
was
capable
not
of
right.
dealing with that. And we need to change that. We need to be responsible as
Yeah.
community members that we're able to adjust a little,
I
but
will
also at the
say
same
that
time not find that this is acceptable to allow them. Oh, you have mental issues? Sure, just shit all over the woods, trash it, do whatever. No, that's not
like, no,
compassion.
give us something, like try. I have noticed, so there's a lot of small businesses in Coos Bay, North Bend, and Coos County that are locally owned, and the owners are extremely humanitarian, very, very understanding. They want to help. Now, when you get into your corporations like Dollar Tree, that is a chain, your McDonald's, your Walmart, Fred Meyer, these places that are more corporate, they don't care as much. They don't have time for it. But there is a lot of small business owners in this community, and that's why I'm so supportive of small business. Like, get the roadblocks out of the way and let people create small businesses, because small businesses support community. They give to the community. Locally, so much money is donated. And I got to give Bandon Dunes credit for as big as they are and as much money as comes through that place. They are very generous and good to their staff. And so there are a lot of small businesses in this community that are willing to give people a chance and work with people that are struggling. But the people that are struggling do need to put in some effort and try to give back as much as they can. And just give what they can.
When I go to city council meetings and stuff and I talk and they give you 3 minute limit and then like they give you the 1 minute and then like the
Yeah,
30 seconds.
yeah.
Well, Cheryl just gave us the 2 hour mark.
Ah,
She gave us the yellow
okay.
card.
Okay. We
She's
got we got like 8 minutes to wrap this up, and we gotta, because I do need to
we
like eat
there's no
and
structure,
get
but yeah, we gotta you know what I'll do? I'll post this full interview, not our interview, or the
yeah, yeah,
20 some minute interview without our, lovely commentary.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I'll share that on YouTube or something so people can watch it if they want to watch it,
Vault,
unedited or
vary and adapt the town
uncommented.
occasionally, and the church at the four-way stop in town is a warming center, but only when it hits below freezing temperatures.
So
It's the only time they open.
So you're moving from Lakeside to Coos Bay because there's better access to services for this. Do you think those services will help you get out of this situation, or?
I fucking hope so.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the Devereaux organization in general?
The ideas and the principal ideas of it are fucking amazing.
I'm just gonna pause it for 1 second. What I cut out before this, she started talking about the Devereaux Center because we were talking about services, and I cut out a bunch because she was naming names of people that work there and stuff, and getting into like little tiny, you know, people issues, and that's just not relevant. So that's what I cut out. I'm not trying to hide anything.
A good portion of the employees believe in it, which helps make it work. A portion of the employees don't fucking give a shit. And that's where I fell into a really fun little category, and then promptly got booted out. And the same employees that don't give a shit also like to play favorites, because I know for a fact there's at least one person that's at Cold Bake Village that has an income between Social Security, Social Security, disability, and alimony payments of almost $3,000 a month, and she's living for free.
Wow.
And has gotten several people booted out because she didn't like them.
So is it fair to say that they're
And she's also been there for almost 3 fucking years.
at Coalbank?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Which it's supposed to be temporary, no more than a year, 2 max.
That's crazy.
Working? Is she like a
No.
manager for them?
No, she does laundry for them
Okay.
and gets everybody's shit mixed up.
Would it be fair to say that their mission and goals are admirable, but in practice they're not doing a good job of?
The basic ideas and principles of how and what the center is supposed to be doing and how it's supposed to be operating are amazing.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
The practical application and people putting their fingers in the wrong pies is where it's falling short.
Do you think that's just because they don't know how to do what they're doing, or because they're in it for the money, or
This is
Well,
interesting.
Let's start with
They
the
don't have
fact
the
that
right
their
people?
counselors aren't counselors
okay?
and are counseling people. I have a huge issue with that because I was mentally
I don't know
ill
how they got away with that hot garbage.
for years.
So you're saying they're not certified?
No,
by the
they have no
state?
certification to be doing anything in sort of counseling other than what they
You
read on a
to be a
What
drug
types of
counselor
volunteer
or
stuff do
whatever.
they have?
You don't.
Yeah.
I looked into it before I went into the life and health coaching certificate. I looked into becoming a licensed therapist because I already have a master's degree in psychology, and I already work in, as a coach for business. And so, having had my trauma experience, I really wanted to share with people what worked for me and put together a program that could guide people through the cracks that I personally fell through. And I would have needed an additional 2 years of education. And I said, F no. No, 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 no,
Yeah.
no. And so in 6 months, I
And-
can get certified to be a life and health coach and help people
Or in
all
6
over the
minutes, you can
place.
sign up to work at the Devereaux Center.
Wild, wild. I don't know how they think
And
of
this is
helping
not
people with
like
people who are not.
this is like, I don't know, maybe the 30th person I've talked to that has said this. I just don't normally film stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, almost everything she's talking about, the drug conversation, that was completely new. I've never gotten that in depth into drugs, but everything else in this interview is like, I hear this stuff on repeat. So people, this is not just one person's. Anyways,
So what types of volunteer stuff did they have other people do?
Laundry, cleaning the showers on shower days. They had me in the clothing closet quite a bit, which wasn't too horribly bad, but it's a lot of bending and picking stuff up from the floor and putting it back, and then I have to deal with people that are mentally ill, schizophrenic, bipolar,
That's rough.
hallucinating sometimes, that are yelling at me, and I don't deal with that.
But
That's
of the
not
people that
okay.
you knew in Coalbank, what were the majority of them doing for volunteer work? Was
Mostly
it
cleaning or housekeeping type duties there at Devereaux, or laundry, sweeping up the parking lot.
Did any of them do volunteer work that wasn't for the Devereaux Center?
Not that I'm aware of. I know the 8 hours for Devereaux is required for you to be at Coalbank.
Was it 8 hours that you had to volunteer at Devereaux, or 8 hours anywhere?
It's supposed to be at any Devereaux property that you can.
That's
do
so
work.
frustrating.
But in reality, not
it's
really.
fucked up.
But could you have volunteered
It
like,
is.
at the city doing something else, or did it have to be?
It has to be for Devereaux.
Oh, wow.
That's part of their funding.
Okay.
Or it's part of the funding for the Coalbank Village. You have to, in order for them to continue funding, you have to volunteer back, basically.
Was there any sort of?
There's so many
timelines
local
that you were
employers
aware of?
that would give hours to people who are trying to reintegrate, trying to
Most
learn
of the people
healthy
have been killed. The
habits.
only violence that I heard about or had seen in any way, shape, or form, somebody committed suicide the second day I was there, and one of my friends that was there committed suicide after I moved out in November.
Actually, at Coalbank?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Like right there in the village.
Like he was in his room New Year's Eve, and they didn't find him until the 3rd of January.
Jeez.
Oh,
What about institutions that can
It's
help?
crazy.
Like they used to have
They closed them all
institutions?
down.
Was that good or bad?
They closed them all down. The only mental health institution is Oregon State Penitentiary.
Okay.
Bingo.
You can check yourself in
There's our
for a mental
problem.
health evaluation for 30 to 60 days at
Not
most
long enough.
hospitals if they provide that service. Coos County does not. Douglas County does
We
not.
don't have the resources
The only
for it.
reason I know this is because we tried to check my mom into a mental health facility to get her diagnosed because there's something seriously off with her, and you can't do it without a court order, 3 immediate family members, and a doctor.
Wow.
And the closest mental health facility is Washington.
Do you think if our leaders campaign to get more of those facilities opened, it would help? It would help around here.
Yes, absolutely, hands down.
I'll tell you right now, the fact that
Mental
our
health
local
is
mayors,
incredibly important.
our commissioners, the people in power who have access to the people in Salem and like to post selfies of themselves with them in DC, so proud of the trips they take. Why aren't they publicly confronting our leaders in Salem who have closed the institutions that we need to take care of these people? I am so sick of do nothing politicians that just smile for the camera and just like want to gloss over all the problems and just focus on the positive. And instead of calling out perverts like Merkley and saying, what are you actually doing to reopen these facilities that you all closed that have destroyed our state? No, they just buddy up to them and rub elbows and give them a free pass. And until our local leaders put the pressure on the people in Salem, nothing will change. And so it's up to us as community members to put the pressure on our local leaders. Because I'll tell you right now, I have tried so hard to get into Senator Merkley and Wyden's ear, and they do not care. I cannot stress enough the degree to which these people do not care what us citizens have to say. And so they will listen, though, if they get blasted on public platforms by politicians who other people do listen to. So if it's the mayors, the commissioners who are standing up and saying, we have a problem with our state leaders, then the state leaders will take action because it makes the public aware. And God forbid they have to save face, But until our local leaders start actually calling them out for failing to address this problem in the way it needs to be addressed, because just building houses isn't going to fix this problem. That is a total red herring. We have to reopen facilities. We have to reopen long-term care institutions. And so I put it on Mayor Jessica Angelke. I wrote a Facebook post about you today. Maybe you can go read it, because while you were buddy with Jeff Merkley, I would love to hear that you talk to him about reopening our institutions instead of singing his praise after he wrote a bill trying to allow men into women's locker rooms. Yeah, he did that. It was really shitty. So I would like to see, and I'm personally going to do it. This makes me really uncomfortable. I'm getting sweaty doing it. But like, if we don't put the pressure on these people, name them, call them out, and say, we want to see you make waves, they're not going to do it. And so we have to get vocal. Like, we have to say it publicly, because what this woman is saying, she's not stupid. She knows what the problems are. She knows what the solutions need to be. The solutions are going to have to be long-term care facilities where people can stay at
Well,
least 6 months, if not a year, if not permanently.
there's a
If a
million
person can't,
solutions. It's not just mental. Yeah, this is one part of it, right? Like,
it
and it's
won't,
going to take
without
everybody
places
for
for these
focusing
people
in
to
their
stay.
areas. But
Yeah, without a place for these people to stay, though, without a place for people to go, they are going to be on the street. And
I
just
agree with you.
housing won't address the deep-seated issues. And until
The
Salem,
only thing The only thing I'll add is that, yeah, you can criticize these leaders, go after them, fight them at the ballot box, right? Like run against them, things like that. But also, support the leaders, go seek out the leaders, give them all of your support, the ones who are stepping up and doing the right thing and having the right conversations and going after the real issues. Because yeah, just criticizing them, I don't think they're going to listen. I've had experience with Jessica Engelke. I don't think she listens. I don't think she'll ever listen. So we need to
She won't
support
listen
somebody
until
in
she's
North
voted
Bend.
out.
Right. So well,
Yeah.
who's it going to be? So we got to find somebody in North Bend who's going to stand up and fight for our community the right way, and not
And this
just
is an
go out to Washington D.C. and shake hands with the right people and hope that the federal government is going to come in here and save us, because they're not.
we have gotten so used to thinking that daddy government is the solution that no people are not stepping up, like in mass. By and large, we have a few outspoken people, but because we have become so reliant on the government solution that people are not looking around their own community and realizing that the solution's in the mirror. And so you're right. We have to replace the only solution really is to replace these people until we get people in power. I hate the whole there's nothing we can do. There's always something you can do. Always something.
We need like a startup ecosystem, a political startup ecosystem where we're nurturing and encouraging young leaders to grow up and
That's a good
become, because
idea.
even if we
Yeah.
find somebody for the next 8 to 10 years or something in North Bend, right? We need somebody after that
Yeah.
person and
Yeah.
after them and
Pipeline.
after them. So it's not just it's not just yell at her
Stewardship.
or replace her. We got to long term think it out. But
So if
all these are good ideas.
If anyone watching or if anyone watching knows someone who is interested in developing themselves into a leadership position, I do work as a life and health and career coach. I'm very, very good at it. And so if there's anyone who would be interested in working toward one of these positions, I would offer some pro bono assistance in that to help facilitate that development and that stewardship.
Yeah, we've got to do something in that arena, because we're not nurturing leadership. It's time. So we'll go back to the interview.
Been very severely overlooked in the last 20 years. My stepmom is manic depressive, paranoid, delusional, schizophrenic, multiple personality disorders. There's 16 people in her head. It took 26 years for her to get that diagnosis. Going from doctor to doctor to doctor, it took her going to Florida, where mental health is actually a very prominent thing, for her to be able to get diagnosed with that. It wasn't until she had an actual massive stroke that it happened that she got diagnosed with that. And she had a massive stroke because one of her personalities has got severely high fucking blood pressure. My buddy just had to move up to Douglas County because he only makes, between Social Security and disability, barely $1,200 a month, and he can't rent a studio apartment with his dog for less than $13.
But makes, like, you don't make that money. Taxpayers
Right.
make that money. That's such a
Isn't
weird
that
way to say it, but whatever.
well,
That's
because
crazy.
it's an entitlement mentality.
That leaves him nothing to feed himself with, and nothing to feed his dog, and nothing to get his meds with.
I can't.
I mean,
Not a good situation.
it's an impoverished county, but we have the highest rent rates. So, I mean, how is that supposed to work?
It's a nice place to
Taxes
live.
are so dang high.
No, it's just leading to more homelessness.
Well, I appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Is there anything I can do for you today, or?
Unless you got a magic wand and a pair of ruby slippers, not much.
I'll look for them in the woods. Thank you.
It was a really good
There you
interview,
go.
Chris.
AI thank you. AI thought I said water. I said woods. I'll look for the wand in the woods. Anyways, there's AI for you. It doesn't always work.
That was a really good interview.
And it was like twice as long as that. So,
I
and
mean,
I had to go through
excellent
and
work.
well, it's just asking questions. It really isn't work. I mean, it's work to, I don't know. Yeah, it's work to edit the stuff and do this whole thing. To some extent, though, I mean, it's like I don't want to make it sound like it's really hard. because it's not. And our leaders should be doing that, especially our paid leaders, like our commissioners who do this as a full-time job. you know I expect more from them. And but even our volunteer positions, city councilors, do you know, like in our whole county, how many city councilors we have when you combine all the cities together? When you combine all of these
It has to be
politicians,
hundreds.
we easily have hundreds. And then if you include all the bureaucrats, right, all the people in these different organizations, these federally funded
Yeah.
organizations, I mean,
Yeah.
like the Devereaux Center. I mean, the Devereaux Center, you're getting paid to do this by federal funds and donations. Where are you going out there and doing this sort of like outreach and educating the public on situations, or are you just trying to paint a picture that gets you more grant funds? Are you just doing like marketing interviews with people to kind of put out the right type of message that will get you the right type of grant funding? Like that's that's what it kind of seems like. It doesn't seem like you're actually conveying reality to people and trying to get to the root of the problem. How much I don't know. It's a big mess. We're in a big mess, but I think we need different leaders to start having different conversations. Or we're not going to get
I
anywhere.
do
I mean,
think that
look at what's been happening.
I know. I do think putting pressure on the leaders will help. I mean, I agree with, I think both are true. You know what I mean? We need to replace the people who are not addressing the problem in an effective way, because you can't just do whatever you feel like doing and be like, well, we're going to build more housing to solve homelessness. Well, we're going to invest a bunch of money in mental health care. That money disappears, and what we're getting for our money is it's being squandered. Like we're not seeing the results. And we don't see leaders standing up and saying, where are our results from these programs? It is really frustrating to know that the poverty rate went from the 80s in Coos County from 13% to now to 16%. And they don't talk about it. They just kind of like
I
sweep it
don't
under
think
the
there's
rug, and
any
they just don't.
statistics that are good for this area anymore. They're all bad. Every
No,
statistic
yeah,
in any sort of sector is like super negative for Oregon and Coos County.
yep. And they won't admit what they're doing is failing. That's what makes me so, it actually kind of pisses me off. Like the rational part of my brain that's like, it's a puzzle, just fix it. It just frustrates me so much because it's so obvious that it's not working, and no one will step back and say the truth. It's not working. This stuff doesn't, it's not effective. It's not addressing the real problems. Makes me
Yeah,
mad.
100%. Well, people like Sarah, who we had on the beginning of the show for the first hour, um, was awesome. And people like that are making a difference. And I think she said she ran for mayor, which is, cool. Like people
Yeah,
getting
yeah,
involved. Like that,
yeah.
I'm not totally familiar, but that I believe that mayor race had multiple people, like more than two. Like how cool is that? Because I know Coos Bay mayor ran unopposed, and Jessica only had one uh person running against her. So
Why are
very
people
cool that we.
not involved?
Oh, I don't live in Coos Bay city limits, or I sure as shit would
I
have
don't
ran
either.
against Joe Benetti. Um, Although mayors don't really have as much power as you think. They're essentially one vote on the city council. They don't. I don't. It's ceremonial at best. I believe it's like you're one out of, I think, 7 votes on a city council. Like you don't have any superpower. Like a commissioner
Yes,
is different. You're like one of 3 votes, or like a sheriff. You run a whole department. It's very different. So,
but there are a lot of
a
different
county
types of
clerk.
power.
You have a whole set of rules for sure.
That's a
Yeah.
type of formal power, right? But there is informal power. And the mayors absolutely do have power over culture. The mayor has the ability to set the stage for how people think they should behave to a certain extent. Like if the mayor makes a press release and says, listen, this is the scope of the problem. We need our churches to stop offering resources because we need to force these people into behavioral rehab. They have to go to rehab. And so we need the community to stop doing this. Can she make them stop? No, but she showed us, Jessica Engelke showed us that she has a backbone. And when people cross her, she can be very, she can stand up for herself, right? We saw the way she treated the school board when she didn't get her way with them. I would describe it as a little bit vicious. Like she really went hard after them. And if she can do that to them, she could do it to all of the organizations in Coos Bay and North Bend that are, well, I guess North Bend because, you know, she doesn't have whatever, but she could do the same thing. She could crawl right up asses. She proved she knows how to do it. And so why isn't she? Because she doesn't care, because that's not her agenda. And so she can prove to me and the rest of us that she actually does care, but like address the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
do
we can do
something.
better,
You know,
Coos
everybody
County,
can
for
do
sure.
something.
We
But
our area deserves better.
yeah, she can affect culture. She can direct people. She can
Oh, all
persuade
those
people.
mayors have a megaphone for sure. They sit up there and they run the
Yes.
meeting. They have a
Yes.
huge megaphone. They can decide whether someone is allowed extra time to talk or not. They can
Yes.
comment at all these meetings and they give you like 3 minutes. It's like, well, if there was a mayor and a city council who actually cared about their citizens, they'd be willing to bring somebody back and have them give like a presentation and talk. Like the commissioners actually did that last year with me and some other people. They gave us time in a work session to present something and explain a point of view, and that's incredible. Our cities have not done that, and that's a shame. We deserve better than that, and we should demand to have better than that and demand it with your voice and also with your pen. You know, sign up, run for office. One day left for district offices. I never
Do
thought
you
I'd be sitting
think
here like encouraging people to do this stuff, but here we are.
Do you think that cutting the federal budget and cutting all of these federal workers and basically like putting the ball back in communities' courts could have the effect of making more people get involved?
I don't know. I don't know where it goes, but I certainly think that we shouldn't be reliant on state and federal government for stuff. I mean,
That's all they go to.
I'm conservative, so relying on the state of Oregon for conservative and Coos County is majority conservative, you know, like they voted 60% for Trump. So it's it's a situation that I don't think is good to be that tied to a government that is opposed to the political philosophy that binds you all together. That's literally, I mean, read the Declaration of Independence. That's why they broke
Right.
that tie. So it's not great. It's not a good situation. So let's decouple ourselves from the state and federal government, and maybe that'll solve our problems, and we won't have conflict and we won't have an issue anymore, and we can be self-sufficient and do our own thing. Let's start there. But yeah, I don't know. It does suck to hear that 25 people though got shit canned from the forestry department around here. But you know, if we can't afford it, our federal government's bankrupt. I mean, it's not. It's like
People don't
it's fake.
understand
So
that.
we're not. But we
I
are.
mean,
We're like super. Like
they don't
we cannot
understand it.
afford it. It's like we're buying
But
25 federal workers on our credit card, essentially.
yeah,
I mean, it's like we
yeah.
don't know. That's not cool for our future generations to have to pay off to China through, you know, who knows,
We
but
have a production deficit.
not
That's
supposed to
what
pick on
inflation
China.
is. It's a production deficit. If we want to solve our budget problems, we need the people who are not participating in the workforce to participate. And we need the people who are participating in the workforce to produce. Like you have to give back what you take. And I think we in America, we've gotten so used to taking more than we actually produce. And it's left us in debt. And of course, there's the issue with the money that we were giving away to other countries. That was spicy to find out about. And so, you know, that's like it is a
We're in some
mess.
interesting times. I mean, people on um, Yeah, it's like, what are they? I just saw on the news they're getting rid of the Department of Education, which is like 4% of the total US government expenditures. I mean, so like from a math standpoint, you're like, sweet, they just saved us 4%, you know? But from an education standpoint, you're like,
What's
is
that
that
going
a
to look
good
like?
thing to get rid of the Department of Education? Maybe that's a great thing. Like you were just kind of saying about getting rid of forestry, like maybe that'll have us locally work better to solve our problems. So maybe by taking the federal government out of the picture, we'll be able to do better for our community in terms of education. Maybe money doesn't always solve everything, right? Maybe bureaucracy doesn't always solve everything. So we're in interesting times because we get to kind of see these things play out. I just hope that these interesting times are productive and not like destructive. Um, we will see. I'm being neutral on this. So,
You know
um,
what? I listen to leftists cry for just to tear the system down for the entire Trump presidency. And you know, they wanted to tear the system down. Well, now they're tearing the system down. So what's the problem?
yeah, the whole being mad at Elon thing is crazy. I mean, the dude just
Yeah,
saved
it is.
space people. Give him a fucking
Allegedly.
break. That's crazy. That's crazy. You know, and that I will address that really quick because that's like the whole, what was it? Somebody got sued for saying that the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting was fake and staged and it was
Jones.
a Hollywood thing. Alex Jones, yeah. He got sued and the left was like, because he's far right, and the left was like, you're crazy for saying that. How are you going to say that a school shooting didn't happen? And then now, and I don't know if it's the same exact people, but it seems that way. The left is claiming that there are people on the left claiming that the NASA thing, or these space people, what do you call them now? Astronauts,
Astronauts.
they didn't get saved, that this was like all a fake
They were
made up
never in
thing.
space.
Um and I'm not just like reading this on the internet in a distant land. These are like actually people who I have have
No, I've
had
seen people post
conversations
it.
with about factual things, and they're
Yeah.
normal to me. I thought they were normal people. They just, I'm
Yeah.
conservative, they're liberal, and we do get along on local issues mostly, and all of a sudden they're talking about that it was fake. And I'm like, and again, I wasn't there. I was not in the space shuttle. I was not in the Gulf of America to see them land with 4 parachutes. So maybe it was a fake thing. I have no idea. But like, I mean, geez, if you have that much distrust, I don't think I don't know how you can function. But that's
I mean,
that's
I'm
wild.
pretty skeptical, but
Come
I
on.
don't know.
But
I don't
you never
know.
know. You never know. But geez,
Like I said, at
you can
this
never know,
point,
but you wouldn't post it online like you do know, right? Because like just as much as I'm going to sit here and say I wasn't in the Gulf
right.
of America, because it's not the Gulf of Mexico, I wasn't in the Gulf of America to watch this spacecraft land, but neither were you to say it didn't land. So it's crazy. It's crazy.
Right. Right. Yeah, I guess, whatever distracts from like facing reality. I don't know.
I think it's just you hate somebody so much you'll make anything up.
I've seen so much
Really.
of that. It's,
Like,
during Trump's first presidency, I did not vote for him. I did not like him. I still like don't really like him, you know what I mean? Just as a person and as a businessman, I don't respect someone that's bankrupted what 6 times or whatever it is. That's just not that's not for me. But I never wished for his death. I never wished to see him fail as president. I think that is psychotic. I think it is like psychosis level mental illness to wish someone's death because you disagree with their politics.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I was just talking about this with somebody today who's on the opposite spectrum side of the spectrum as me, and is like, we got to focus on local issues, and as soon as we did, it's like, okay, we can get along. Like, if we can talk about
yeah,
something
yeah,
concrete, like, hey, there's this issue in Lakeside, and there's this stuff going on. How do we solve it? Instantly we're
yeah,
back on track, and we're figuring it out and agreeing on it. Um,
yeah.
and And this stuff federally and at the state level, it affects us. It really does. But here in Coos County, we don't have any say in it. Sorry to
Right.
burst your bubble, but if whether you're liberal or conservative in Coos County, Oregon's voting blue for the federal stuff. So that's gone.
Yeah.
That's just, it's
Yeah.
going to be blue, and that's what you're going to get. And then same thing, you know, in state stuff, like the Oregon is controlled at the state level blue as well. So that's what we're going to get. And so we need to focus right now locally, leave the blue red politics out of it, and focus on like what are we going to do here locally. You can play the long game and focus on bigger stuff too, but like we have major issues that we can fix here without some bailout from the state or federal government.
You're right.
So,
You're right. Community involvement is where it's at, and holding people accountable to doing what's
hopefully,
right for our community, and listening to our, like, listen to the community. Or we have leaders who are on a runaway train doing what they think the community needs. And it just does not feel like they are listening at all. And that's why their stuff keeps getting voted down, because they're not listening. And so when they can't figure out why, the BS that they want. I like trying to vote in the outside little municipalities or little towns to join the taxing district. There was a poll on Facebook. Overwhelmingly, people were like, F no. You know how much time and effort the city could have saved everyone by just doing a Facebook poll to see if it was even worth entertaining putting on the ballot? But no, they're so
no, 'cause they're
sure
not gonna.
that
Nope.
they're so sure that
But
they have the answer, and everyone else will see that they have the answer, that they don't stop and think that, like, just because you think it's right doesn't mean that people want it.
to be fair, there's a whole world outside there besides Facebook. It's a I can do polls, like you can do a poll on Facebook that almost comes to any conclusion you want, depending on what group you posted in or whatever. So there's a
It's been
whole
pretty
world out there,
accurate so far, though. I mean, the sentiment that I've seen echoed on social media of
right?
multiple platforms, it has been pretty accurate, actually, in predicting election results. I've
Well, if
seen it
that's
over the
true,
last,
I posted a poll earlier today asking whether the College Board needs to be replaced. And the last I checked before the show, it was like 75 votes. Yes, we need to replace the
yeah.
board, to like 3 votes. No, we should keep them. So maybe that's a good omen. I hope. When I posted it, I was like, man, this could really backfire. but it hasn't. So hopefully the election follow through is there as well. The real election, not the Facebook poll. Facebook polls don't mean
Right.
shit
And it's so
unless you're actually
important,
going to go to the ballot box.
absolutely. And for those people who are on Facebook and are seeing this stuff, there are a lot of people that aren't, or that use Facebook and they don't look at this stuff. I run into people all the time that are like, holy crap, that's going on. And so it is up to all of us to have these conversations in person with our friends and family. And, like they say, "Oh, don't talk about religion or politics." You know why? You know how that was spread? That little saying came from people in power in religion and power in politics. Who were like, boy, if they talk about it too much, they might vote us out. So talk about it. Talk about it. Even if it's an uncomfortable
But again,
conversation, have respectful
focus on like a
conversations.
concrete, for sure. Focus on a concrete local issue though. Start there. Maybe, and then you can, if you're getting along and you're not throwing stuff at each other, at like Thanksgiving, you can like broaden it to maybe state, and then maybe
I will
federal
say,
stuff. But
be
start with
prepared.
a concrete local issue.
Yes. Here's a tip. Oh, to Chris Freeze. Here's a tip. If you're getting into a conversation with someone, oh, I forgot what I was going to say. I lost my train of thought. Where was I going with that?
Oh, jeez.
You froze,
I
and it
think it's.
totally distracted me.
I'll bring back Cheryl's comment here. We're gonna hit the 2-hour mark. Well, Cheryl, we busted through it. We
We
made it.
did.
We are in
We
the
smashed
third
it.
hour. We're in the legendary third hour. Do.
That's where I start to
Anyways,
lose my train of thought.
this has been fun. I liked having a guest. that's not just us. I've been trying and
Yeah.
trying. So yay, thank you, Sarah, for doing that. And
Yeah.
we will continue that. I'm trying to schedule an interview with Nikki, the mayor of Lakeside, to talk about what she's doing and ask her some questions. And yeah, we'll continue this.
Oh,
So
I remembered what I was going to say. If
she's
you're
back.
getting into a conversation with someone and you're disagreeing, don't push it. Let them disagree, respect their opinion, back away, and just allow that new idea that they were initially like, let that idea resonate, because people, their ego is attached to their opinions. So when you challenge someone's opinion, you're challenging their concept of their self, like who they are as a person. And people need time to digest new information and integrate it into their sense of self. And so if you're having this conversation and somebody's really resistant, just be like, okay, back off and let it go. And you might find that a few days goes by, a few weeks go by, and that person's mindset has shifted slightly. So don't expect a resolution in the moment. You're just a gardener out there planting seeds. Plant seeds of thought, things for people to mull over, to get their little brain juices going. And so that's my advice, is just plant a seed and let it grow.
Planting seeds. We're all farmers. That's what we're out here doing. Speaking of planting seeds, I got to get on that. It's spring. It's getting
It's gardening
warmer for around here. And yeah, lots of rain. Holy smokes. I think it's rained like 7 inches or something here in the past couple days. Totally nuts. But I got the music going. That means we have to start shutting this ship down, But
All
this has been
right.
fun.
Thank you.
I'll
Yeah, this is great.
I will see you next Wednesday, everybody. Thank you so much, Brandy, for being a part of this. Thanks everybody for contributing.
Thank you
This is
for
really cool.
hosting. Yeah. Thank you, everybody.